Chapter 1912. The formation map shone with unparalleled brilliance. It was dazzling, and the divine light seemed to cover everything. Lin Tian, whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu were in Sky Pass Valley. When they saw this scene at close range, they couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. They could clearly feel how terrifying the power of the formation map was. 200 emperor gods from the myriad races, all dead. This formation map, this whooshing crocodile couldn't help but tremble. At the same time, in Dafan Holy Land, the experts from the other myriad races were all shocked. The emperor gods from their clans who had entered had all died. Only the last step is left. When the gate to the Void Realm opens, the ancestors will enter the legendary world. Soon, they will bring us in too. The experts from Dafan Holy Land were all excited. Many of them clenched their fists, their faces full of excitement. Further away, on the peak of an independent immortal peak, Jiuli Cave and dozens of other emperor gods stood together. At this moment, their eyes were shining brightly. All of them looked at the huge formation map in the depths of Sky Pass Valley. Endless years, just for this moment. It's done. Open. Dozens of people formed seals at the same time. Their voices were deep and resonant, triggering the huge formation map in the depths of Sky Pass Valley. The formation map shone with even more shocking divine light. Boundless energy surged and lit up the entire place. There were many skeletons there. Most of them were at the level of god kings and god emperors. There were also many emperor gods. Obviously, these skeletons belonged to the experts from Dafan Holy Land who had entered Sky Pass Valley and died there. Boom! Extremely thick radiance gushed out from the formation diagram, becoming even more intense. Following that, with a rumbling sound, a streak of treasure light appeared, rushing out from the formation diagram. It was the power of the 200 god emperors, penetrating through everything, completely covering the void in that area. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out incessantly. In that place, other than the vigorous energy, there were some other strands of strange energy that appeared. It was as if it did not belong to this world. Under the guidance of the array diagram, it vibrated along with the treasure light that rushed out from it. Buzz! It was as if there were millions and millions of divine birds flapping their wings in that area, crying out continuously. That area was drowned out by radiance, and streaks of lightning interweaved. Then, a circular passage roughly 10 zhang in diameter appeared. All types of divine splendor surged within, interweaving with all types of strange and unknown terrifying power. Lin Tian was in the Tongtian Valley. He was shocked. The huge formation had opened a passage. Was it really the way to the Heaven Void World? Can it really lead to the Celestial Void World? Whooshing crocodile stared blankly. The Heaven Void World was a legendary big world. Even peak divine emperors didn't know how to enter it. They didn't even have a clue. The place was known as a high-grade world. It was imaginable that there would definitely be endless divine fate and opportunities everywhere. If one could enter that place to cultivate, one day's effort would be equivalent to 10 years of hard work in the current world. Yeah, even little Taichu couldn't help but stare at the circular passage in the depths without blinking. Outside Tongtian Valley, the experts of Dafan Divine Land were even more excited. The road to the heavenly realm, it's really open. At this time, although these people were very far away, not in the valley, and did not have the powerful cultivation of an emperor god, they could still see the huge circular passage in the depths of the valley. Their faces were filled with excitement. At the same time, on an independent immortal peak in the distance, the divine emperors of Dafan Divine Land, including Ninely Cave, had brighter eyes. It's open. It's finally open. Although they were divine emperors and had profound mental states, they couldn't remain calm at this time. All of them were excited. Let's go, one of them said. Immediately, the dozens of people rushed straight toward the passage in the depths of Tongtian Valley. Lin Tian, whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu were in Tongtian Valley. At this time, they were all looking at the passage. Whooshing crocodile was also excited. Kid, Kid, let's rush in too. The heavenly realm of nihility was too extraordinary. At this time, this passage might really lead to the heavenly realm of nihility. Moreover, this passage was very close to them. They could definitely rush in. This was a great opportunity for them. Although Lin Tian still wanted to find Wan Mugen, he was also a little tempted now. After all, the heavenly realm of nihility was too tempting. It was like the temptation of a macro world like the immortal realm to ordinary cultivators. However, he held back in the end and said, "There's no rush for now." It was still unknown whether the passage could really lead to the heavenly realm of nihility. If it wasn't, rushing in rashly might cause a lot of trouble. Moreover, if they rushed in at this time, they would be immediately discovered by the divine emperors of Dafan Divine Land. Those divine emperors would definitely kill them. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air was heard. At this time, dozens of divine emperors from Julie Cave had arrived. All of them rushed into the depths of Sky Pass Valley. There was originally some kind of terrifying demonic energy that could annihilate divine emperors. However, at this time, because the array diagram had gathered all the power of 200 divine emperors, the strange demonic energy was forcefully suppressed. It didn't affect these divine emperors at all. Dozens of them rushed straight into the circular passage that had been blasted open by the divine array diagram. Lin Tian, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu were relatively at the periphery of Sky Pass Valley. They all looked straight ahead. These old fellows are going to rush in. Whooshing Crocodile clenched his claws and couldn't help but speak. Dozens of divine emperors from Dafan Divine Land had already reached the edge of the passage. Boom! Suddenly, in the depths of Sky Pass Valley, the circular passage shook violently. The void distorted inch by inch. At that place, the white skeletons on the surface exploded. A pitch-black divine light suddenly rushed out from the ground. It carried an extremely shocking spiritual energy. It was terrifying and overflowing. Door to the heaven realm? The pitch-black divine light vibrated, and a cold voice came out. It was as vast and mighty as a heavenly bell, causing the surrounding sky to explode. In the next moment, the divine light surged and suddenly transformed into a soul shadow. Its eyes were frighteningly deep, as if it had seen through everything. Lin Tian, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu were in Sky Pass Valley. When they saw this soul shadow, their expressions immediately changed. Lin Tian's eyes couldn't help but narrow. Such a soul shadow had suddenly rushed out from the depths of Sky Pass Valley. Moreover, the intertwining aura was too terrifying. That level of spiritual energy wasn't something that a divine emperor cultivator could emit. He had only felt such an aura from the 12-winged sacred envoy from the upper macro world and the terrifying ferocious beast suppressed by the primal chaos sacred hall. Chapter 1913. The soul shadow formed by the pitch-black divine light was too terrifying. Its aura seemed to be able to annihilate everything in its path. Lin Tian's heart skipped a beat in the face of this aura. This, Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu's expressions changed as well. At this moment, they couldn't help but shrink their bodies and lay on Lin Tian's head. The sudden appearance of the soul shadow was too terrifying. At the same time, the 9 cave god emperors who had rushed to the depths of sky-piercing valley trembled. You are... Dozens of people trembled. They were obviously god emperor level powerhouses, but at this moment, they felt a chill run down their spines as they faced the soul shadow that had suddenly appeared. For a moment, they couldn't even move. It was as if they were being restrained by a pair of invisible hands. At the outermost area of sky-piercing valley, the other cultivators' expressions changed as well. At this moment, they couldn't see the soul shadow in the depths of sky-piercing valley, but they could feel an extremely terrifying aura erupting from that place. In the depths of sky-piercing valley, the soul shadow was the size of a normal person. Its eyes were extremely deep, and there were no fluctuations of emotion in them. It looked a little terrifying. A group of ants trying to open the sky-piercing door and disturbing this lord's cultivation. You're courting death. The soul shadow opened its mouth. Its voice was cold, and a strange force was produced from the soul shadow. As this strange force appeared, it was as if a huge, invisible whirlpool had appeared around him. It swept everything in the surroundings towards him. Dozens of god emperors from Daffin Divine Land were pulled over, and all of them were greatly shocked. At the same time, the range of this whirlpool was too shocking. Lin Tian, Wuxing Crocodile, and Little Taichu were also affected. A strong force fell on their surroundings and pulled them toward the soul shadow. Immediately, the human and two beasts' expressions changed. This was definitely not a good thing. It was also at this time that the dozens of god emperors from the great Brahma Divine Land were pulled to the front of the soul shadow in the blink of an eye. They tried their best to resist, but it was to no avail. The few god emperors at the front had just gotten close to the soul shadow when their soul shadows exploded. Their flesh and blood scattered, but their souls were preserved. They were pulled into the soul shadow's body and directly devoured. When the other emperor gods saw this, their expressions changed drastically. They were all terrified and they tried their best to defend themselves. However, it was still useless. The strange power that originated from the pitch-black soul shadow was too excessive and terrifying. "Senior, spare my life!" Blood Silkworm Ridge's god emperor shouted. The other emperor gods also spoke out. At this moment, their voices were trembling. They could feel that death was approaching. The pitch-black soul shadow didn't say a word. His eyes were extremely cold. The dozens of god emperors from the great Brahma god land exploded one after another. Their flesh and blood dissipated. Only their divine souls were preserved. All of their soul lights entered their corporeal bodies. In an instant, dozens of god emperors were all dead. Lin Tian's scalp went numb. He wanted to resist, but at this time, he was enveloped by the strange power that originated from the pitch-black soul shadow. He couldn't even move. He couldn't even resist like the god emperors from the great Brahma god land. At the same time, Wuxing Crocodile and Little Taichu were naturally the same. There are a few smaller insects. Their soul power isn't as strong as the ants from before. However, it's no problem. They will all return to my soul body. The soul shadow looked at Lin Tian and the others. In the next moment, his expression changed. He saw Little Taichu lying on top of Lin Tian's head. The soul shadow couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Immortal spirit royalty, the descendant of the old demon. Seeing Little Taichu, the soul shadow was clearly shocked. He directly reached out and grabbed the Little Taichu on top of Lin Tian's head. At the same time, a surge of murderous energy rushed towards Lin Tian and Wuxing Crocodile. The space around them was annihilated in an instant. Lin Tian's back became even colder. At this time, he didn't have the time to be shocked by the terrifying soul shadow's attitude towards Little Taichu. This was because he could clearly feel the tide of death pressing down on him. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were trembling violently. However, suddenly, the soul shadow trembled violently. The terrifying aura that the soul shadow emitted dissipated in an instant. At the same time, the terrifying energy that enveloped Lin Tian and the others disappeared. They regained their freedom. This, 1 man and 2 beasts were shocked. As expected, the second soul shadow still can't move freely. The soul shadow muttered to himself. His soul body trembled slightly and seemed extremely unstable. In an instant, it became like the soul of an ordinary person. He raised his head to look at Lin Tian and the Little Taichu on top of Lin Tian's head. His eyes were still deep and extremely cold. "When my second soul shadow is fully formed, I will personally look for you." As he spoke, his soul shadow slowly sank into the ground. "You've escaped death. Kid, run quickly," Wuxing Crocodile said. The scales on his body were all standing up. Lin Tian naturally had this plan. He turned around and was about to escape. However, in the next moment, his expression suddenly changed. He tilted his head and looked at the soul shadow that was slowly sinking into the ground. At this time, the soul shadow's soul shadow had become faint. It was completely the same as the soul of an ordinary person. He saw a wooden root that was about an inch long in the center of the soul shadow's soul shadow. It was surrounded by strands of faint golden light. An extremely vigorous aura of life was emitted from it. Juan Mugen. He was shocked. The wooden root that was about an inch long was one of the divine items that he was looking for to make the world's seed blossom and bear fruit. It was the Juan Mugen. Previously, the soul energy of the pitch-black soul shadow was too strong. Because he was too close, he could only feel the monstrous waves of soul energy. At this time, as the soul energy of the soul shadow weakened and became the same as the soul of an ordinary person, he could feel the terrifying aura of life from the Juan Mugen. That's the Juan Mugen? Wuxing Crocodile naturally saw the inch-long golden wooden root at this time. He was immediately shocked. The Juan Mugen was actually inside the soul shadow's soul shadow. Yes, Lin Tian said in a low voice. He looked at the pitch-black soul shadow and paused. He struggled and hesitated for 3 breaths. Then he moved. He was no longer trying to escape. Instead, he charged straight at the soul shadow. The Juan Mugen was very important to him. At this time, something seemed to have happened to the soul shadow. Its surging soul energy had completely disappeared. It was no different from an ordinary person. It stopped attacking them and chose to go back into the ground to cultivate. Obviously, it had lost the ability to attack. At the same time, he guessed that the soul shadow had probably lost the ability to resist. Therefore, he had to take the risk and snatch the Juan Mugen. Kid Lin, don't be reckless. Impulse is the devil. Wuxing Crocodile trembled and could not help but shout. He naturally guessed that Lin Tian was going to snatch the Juan Mugen from the soul shadow's body. He was so scared that his soul almost jumped out. This was the most classic example of snatching food from the tiger's mouth. Chapter 1914. The soul shadow's voice was loud and clear, and it carried a frightening, murderous intent. Wuxing Crocodile was so frightened that his heart almost jumped out of his chest. However, Lin Tian laughed. You seem to be in a bad situation. This soul shadow was definitely a terrifying existence. At this moment, he had realized that Lin Tian wanted to snatch the Juan Mugen. Under such circumstances, if the soul shadow had the ability to deal with Lin Tian, he would have slapped Lin Tian directly. Why would he waste time talking nonsense with Lin Tian? The soul shadow did not speak. His gaze became even colder, and it was bone-chilling. Right now, he was indeed in a bad situation. However, he naturally would not admit it. I've already absorbed the spiritual energy of dozens of ants. I don't want to refine anymore. However, if you want to die, just come over, he said coldly. Are you trying to scare me? Stop pretending. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old kid? Lin Tianlun laughed. He was not afraid at all. The soul shadow had clearly attacked them just now. Then his spiritual energy suddenly decreased and he stopped. It was obvious that something unexpected had happened. At this moment, his words were naturally a threat. He could completely guess. The Juan Mugen is mine. Even the 5 Elements crocodile, who had a horrified look on his face, was moved when he heard what he said. The horror on his face instantly lessened because that soul shadow did look a little strange. At this moment, with a whoosh, he stepped forward. He was very fast and appeared in front of the pitch-black soul shadow in the blink of an eye. Then he was very bold. He was not afraid at all. He directly raised his hand and grabbed at the pitch-black soul shadow. Worm, you're courting death. I'll destroy you, the soul shadow shouted. It had an extremely frightening aura. However, Lin Tian did not care at all. He directly raised his hand and grabbed at the Juan Mugen in the soul shadow's body. The light of the heavenly one-soul technique was intertwined at the tip of his hand. At this moment, it entered the soul shadow's body. He grabbed the Juan Mugen in his hand and pulled it out. Wuxing Crocodile saw this scene and immediately widened his eyes. This old thing, did he really lose his power? Lin Tian grabbed the Juan Mugen from the soul shadow's body. The rich life energy immediately surrounded him, causing him to be overjoyed. The 10,000 Mugen was in his hands. The soul shadow was furious. His main body was in the higher great world. Because of a battle, he had been injured and a small amount of his soul light was lost in the lower realm. After countless years, he recovered his consciousness and found the 10,000 wood root in this Daffin divine land. Then he began to cultivate in seclusion. He used the 10,000 wood root to nurture the soul light, and nurtured it as his second soul body. He had already achieved good results. When this second soul body was fully developed and merged with the main soul of his main body, his strength would undergo an earth-shaking change. But now, at this time, Lin Tian had snatched the wand Mugen away. "Give it to me!" He let out a low roar and directly raised his hand to grab the myriad wood root in Lin Tian's hand. Lin Tian leaned to the side and avoided the giant hand of the soul. He put away the myriad wood root and looked at the soul again. "I'll destroy you," he sneered and activated the Heavenly One soul mantra. His soul power surged into his palm, and at the same time, he activated the soul transformation talisman and slapped it towards the soul shadow. This person had wanted to kill them before, but he was unable to do so due to the sudden decrease in his soul energy. He had said that he would personally look for them after he came out of seclusion. Naturally, he would not let this person go. Bang! His giant hand, which was surrounded by soul power and the soul transformation talisman, slapped the soul shadow and sent it flying with a bang. The soul shadow let out a muffled groan, and his soul shadow became much dimmer. This, I $, whooshing crocodile stared. This soul shadow in front of him was so terrifying just now. It could easily devour even an emperor god. It could already be confirmed that this soul shadow was definitely an existence that had surpassed the emperor god realm. But now Lin Tian had directly slapped it. "Yeah." Little Taichu also stared. Lin Tian looked at the soul shadow. His eyes were very cold, and he did not stop. The soul transformation talisman condensed again and charged towards the soul shadow. Although the soul shadow was unable to use its soul power due to special reasons, it could not be destroyed in one go. He knew very well that in order to destroy this soul shadow, he would need to use the soul transformation talisman dozens of times at least. He took a step forward and stepped in front of the soul shadow. He raised his hand and slapped it again. The soul transformation talisman in his palm intertwined with dazzling divine light. With a bang, the soul shadow was sent flying again. "Lowly ant from a lowly world. You dare!" Slap! Lin Tian arrived and slapped the soul shadow again. The power of the soul transformation talisman was also intertwined, and the soul shadow was sent flying again. This scene was undeniably a little frightening. If outsiders saw this, they would probably be so shocked that their jaws would fall to the ground. A terrifying existence that had surpassed the Emperor God realm was now being slapped several times by a divine king cultivator. Lin Tian stepped forward and continued to close in on the soul shadow. "I'll slap you to death," he said. He struck again and again, and each time, he would use the power of the soul transformation talisman to greet the soul shadow. This was an enemy. If he wanted to kill them, he definitely could not leave them alive. Soon, pung pung pung. He had slapped the soul shadow more than 90 times. Each slap carried the power of the soul transformation talisman, causing the soul shadow to become even dimmer. However, it still did not dissipate. "You really can take a beating." He was shocked. Originally, he thought that 70 to 80 soul transformation talismans would be enough to obliterate the other party's soul. Unexpectedly, after more than 90 soul transformation talismans, the other party's soul still existed and wasn't destroyed by him. "Continue. Let's see how long you can last," he said, and once again pressed forward. He slapped the soul shadow again and again, continuously using the soul transformation talismans. Pung, pung, pung. The soul transformation talismans in his palms landed on the soul shadow, and loud sounds continuously rang out. In the blink of an eye, he had slapped his opponent over 200 times. Over 200 soul transformation talismans had landed on his opponent's soul, but he still hadn't destroyed his opponent's soul. He had only made his opponent's soul fainter than before. It was also at this moment that the soul shadow let out an extremely suppressed roar of anger. "And in the near future, I'll definitely make you suffer a fate worse than death." As his words fell, there was a boom, and his soul shadow suddenly exploded with an extremely dazzling light. Lin Tian directly felt a piercing pain in his eyes. He could not help but stop in his tracks and subconsciously used his hands to cover his eyes. At the same time, the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu did the same. It was also at this moment that the sound of the air being torn apart was heard. The soul shadow, with a dazzling light that filled the sky, charged straight into the world portal that the dozens of god emperors of the Dafan Holy Land had opened. After being slapped by Lin Tian continuously for hundreds of times, he really could not take it anymore. At this moment, he chose to directly escape and enter the heaven realm of nothingness through this world portal. He returned to his original body and merged with his main soul. He no longer wanted to seize the myriad wood root that had been snatched away by Lin Tian. In fact, he could not take it back at all. At this moment, his second soul shadow had lost its power due to special reasons. It would remain like this for at least a month. Under such circumstances, if he stayed here, not to mention that it was impossible to take back the myriad wood root, his second soul shadow might even be directly destroyed by Lin Tian. If that happened, he would really suffer a great loss. Chapter 1915. The soul shadow escaped at an extremely fast speed. Dazzling divine light suddenly appeared outside the soul body. It was very dazzling, but there was no substantial offensive divine power mixed in it. It was just a dazzling halo that temporarily interfered with Lin Tian. When Lin Tian heard the sound of the soul shadow breaking through the air, he immediately knew that it was not good. He quickly opened his divine eyes of delusion breaker and saw the soul shadow rushing into the huge world portal. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared from his sight. He could not help but frown. This soul shadow was definitely very terrifying. Now that it had escaped, it would be a big problem. At this time, the dazzling halo had disappeared. Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu also opened their eyes. "Where's that old thing?" Whooshing Crocodile looked around. He escaped? Lin Tiandao looked at the huge world portal in front of him. Whooshing Crocodile instantly understood that the soul shadow had entered the world portal and disappeared from this place. Are we going into? It looked at the world portal in front of them and said to Lin Tiandao, "That old thing is definitely beyond the Emperor God realm." Previously, he said that this is the door to the heaven realm, and now he rushed in directly. In addition, there are rumors that the Dafan Holy Land and the heaven realm of nihility are very closely related. Then this passage can definitely lead to the legendary heaven realm of nihility. The heaven realm of nihility was a legendary upper-class world. Once one entered, there would be endless benefits. Lin Tiandao heard and nodded immediately. Now, he had found Wan Mugen in the Dafan Holy Land. He felt that the other divine items that an old drunkard mentioned that the world seed needed to bloom and bear fruit should exist in the heaven realm of nihility as well. He should be able to find them. At the same time, there was nothing for him to worry about in this world. His family and friends were in the Ten Heavens territory. Wu Yi was there. With Wu Yi's strength, even those who had surpassed the Emperor God realm might not be able to take advantage of Wu Yi. He did not have to worry at all. "Let's go." At that moment, he opened his mouth and called for Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu to set off. They rushed straight into the world portal in front of them. Behind the world portal was the world tunnel that led to the celestial void world. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to enter the legendary celestial void world. He really didn't want to miss it. Almost as soon as they entered, the huge array diagram in the depths of Heavenspan Valley collapsed. At the same time, the world portal disappeared as well. Buzz! Within the world tunnel, all sorts of strange divine lights intertwined. The human and the two beasts were in the middle of the tunnel, and they were able to observe their surroundings. Inside, they scanned their surroundings. The world tunnel was circular, and they were quickly swept forward. On both sides of the tunnel, various beams of light were receding into the distance. Heaven Realm, the legendary world. Lord Crocodile is here. Whooshing Crocodile was excited. In this tunnel, they could speak freely. Lin Tian remained silent, remaining cautious. In the blink of an eye, roughly 2 hours passed. At this moment, there was a rumbling sound, and the world tunnel trembled. Are we reaching the finish line? Whooshing Crocodile was even more excited. Lin Tian didn't speak immediately. He scanned his surroundings, and his expression changed. At this moment, cracks appeared on both sides of the circular world tunnel, and these cracks were getting bigger. Kid, you don't look good. What happened? Whooshing Crocodile saw that Lin Tian's expression had become very ugly. It followed Lin Tian's line of sight and trembled. At this moment, the world tunnel was actually cracking. Without a doubt, this was a very frightening thing. In a situation where they hadn't stepped out of the world tunnel. If the world tunnel collapsed, even divine emperors wouldn't be able to survive. And this world tunnel was even more unusual. It was the world tunnel that led to the legendary celestial void world. Once this world tunnel collapsed, it would be even more terrifying. Even divine emperors would die. Boom! There was another loud sound, and the world tunnel trembled. More cracks appeared around it, and they kept spreading. Then there was another boom, and the world tunnel collapsed completely. Shards of light scattered everywhere. The terrifying power of space swept over crazily. It's over. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have come in. Whooshing Crocodile's face turned pale. Little Alpha Primordium also trembled, the hair all over his body, standing on end as the destructive power continued to press down on him. Lin Tian's 5 viscera and 6 bowels turned icy cold. He immediately propped up the immortal Emperor Pagoda and put himself and the 5 elements crocodile Little Grand Primordium into it. Right now, his strongest defense was the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Dong! 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 The immortal Emperor Pagoda was made of primordial heavenly crystal, and it was extremely sturdy. Its defense was terrifying. However, it had only been refined to the level of a divine king weapon. It couldn't withstand the power of space after the world tunnel collapsed, and it kept crumbling. The power of space vibrated, and some of it spread. The man and the 2 divine beasts trembled, and their bodies bled profusely. In just a short moment, their souls and life essence had suffered unimaginable damage. There was another boom, and the immortal Emperor Pagoda shook violently. Another terrifying power of space surged in and pressed down on them. It's over, the 5 elements crocodile cried out. At this moment, his voice had already become very weak because of the injury. Little Taichu's snow-white hair was stained with blood, and it clutched Lin Tian's hair tightly. Lin Tian's nose and mouth were bleeding, and his heart was cold. When the world tunnel collapsed, even as a divine king, he couldn't resist at all. He couldn't withstand the terrifying power of space after the world tunnel collapsed. As long as the second wave of space force fell on them, none of them would be able to survive. Damn it! He was shocked and enraged at the same time. No matter what, he didn't expect to encounter such a situation. At the same time, he roughly guessed the reason. The world tunnel created by the dozens of great Brahma divine Earths, celestial emperors, was not stable, and it collapsed at this moment. There was another boom, and more cracks appeared on the immortal Emperor Pagoda. The second wave of power of space really pressed down on them. The aura of destruction came crashing down. Buzz! Suddenly, his body glowed, and wisps of gentle holy light spread out from his body. It was vast and boundless, and it immediately repelled the power of space that was pressing down on them. It enveloped him, Whooshing Crocodile, Little Taichu, and the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Lin Tian's expression changed. At the same time, Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu's expressions changed. It seems to be the light of the world seed. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes widened. Yeah! Little Taichu also made a sound. They had seen Lin Tian's world seed before, and they had a deep impression of the special light emitted by the world seed. Chapter 1916. The world seed glowed, and holy light swirled around it. Wisps of holy light rippled out from Lin Tian's body like water ripples. It was very holy. As the holy light rippled out, the terrifying spatial power after the collapse of the world tunnel was completely blocked. It could no longer invade. This is indeed the world seed. To be able to block this level of spatial energy so easily. The whooshing crocodile was both surprised and delighted. Then he asked doubtfully, speaking of which, when we were sucked into the huge crack in the chaotic world and faced the terrifying spatial power, why didn't the world seed in your body emit light on its own? It's glowing probably, because I'm facing a situation where I'm going to die. As for why it didn't emit light in the chaotic world, it was because we directly used the God Emperor's corpse as a source of spatial power. We didn't really face the predicament of death. Lin Tian said. The whooshing crocodile thought for a while. This seemed to make sense. The spatial power swept out, and it was very frightening. Faint holy light intertwined around Lin Tian's body. It came from the world seed, and it perfectly blocked this terrifying spatial power. For a short time, the light emitted by the world seed won't disappear. It's enough to ensure our safety. Let's take advantage of this time to heal our injuries. Lin Tian said to the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu. The sudden collapse of the world tunnel only caused them to be swept by the spatial power once, and they were severely injured. At this time, their bodies were stained with blood. The whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu nodded. Immediately, the man and the two beasts each used their own divine techniques to heal their injuries. The world seed in Lin Tian's body emitted rays of light, enveloping the man and the two beasts, as well as the immortal Emperor Pagoda. They slowly floated into spatial turbulence after the collapse of the world. In an unknown great world, there were endless divine mountains and immortal peaks. Astonishing divine aura intertwined in the air. This was the celestial world of nothingness. On this day, in this strange and majestic world, a beam of soul light shot into an ancient shrine. After that, an extremely ice-cold, murderous intent suddenly spread out from the shrine. The entire sky where the shrine was located turned pitch black. It was very frightening. Supreme Tao Lord, you've come out of seclusion? Around the divine palace, there were many other palaces and immortal mountains. Many cultivators inside trembled, all of them greatly alarmed. These cultivators were not weak. Each of them had boundless essence, chi, and spirit. Among them, there were even god emperors. However, at this moment, they all knelt down and kowtowed in the direction of the divine palace. In an ancient temple, a living fossil opened its eyes. Just now, a beam of soul light had rushed into its body. It was the soul shadow from the Dafan Holy Land. It was the second godly soul that had entered the celestial world of nothingness before the world tunnel collapsed. Now, this second soul entered his body, allowing this living fossil to learn about many things. Someone actually disrupted his cultivation, seized his divine object, making his many years of cultivation wasted. Lowly worms. This person spoke, his voice bone-chilling. His voice sounded from his original location, producing a divine sense engraving. It was a young man, shockingly Lin Tian's appearance. Send a few outstanding divine kings into the lower realms. Bring this bug up from the lower realms. I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. This was the celestial world of nothingness. The stronger one was, the harder it was for them to descend. With the current methods of the experts in the celestial world of nothingness, the highest level they could send a divine king-level cultivator into the lower realms. Yes, outside the divine palace, many experts felt that the ancient existence that had been in seclusion for countless years had awakened on this day, emitting such a terrifying killing intent. Moreover, he wanted to bring up a human from the lower realms. This made the experts in the immortal mountains feel very strange, but no one dared to ask anything. They immediately went to carry out the order. Among the nobles of our domain, those 7 are the most outstanding. Their bloodlines are shocking, and they are unrivaled in the same realm. Let them go down to the lower realms and bring that human up. A god emperor expert said. Time passed. Lin Tian and the others were wrapped in the light emitted by the world seed. They were still drifting in the destroyed space after the world tunnel collapsed. How long are we going to float for? When will this destructive space power disappear? The light emitted by this world seed won't suddenly extinguish, right? Almighty crocodile ancestor, please keep this light, at least until we are completely safe. The whooshing crocodile prayed to itself. Lin Tian glanced at it from the corner of his eyes. He didn't say anything and just looked outside. It had been 3 days since the world tunnel collapsed. Their injuries had long recovered. At the same time, he had reconstructed the immortal Emperor Pagoda and kept it in his body. Now, they were only wrapped in the holy light emitted by the world seed. They were drifting in the wanton space power without any danger. This was because the holy light emitted by the world seed was really shocking. At the same time, the world seed was in his body. He could feel that the light of the world seed wouldn't be extinguished for the time being. Being wrapped in the holy light, he looked at the wanton space power outside. Silver tornadoes appeared from time to time. It was really terrifying. He felt that they could easily tear apart a god-emperor expert. Yeah. Little Taichu lay on top of his head and looked at the tornadoes outside. It could also feel how terrifying the tornadoes were. It would shrink its neck from time to time. Then, time continued to pass. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days had passed. On this day, the space power around the human and 2 beasts became weaker and weaker. It was fading away bit by bit. After another day had passed, the terrifying spatial energy had completely disappeared. The surroundings had become somewhat dim. There was no light, nor were there any mountains or immortal peaks. There were only some broken rocks floating around. At the same time, the world seed in Lin Tian's body gradually dimmed. The holy light that enveloped the human and 2 beasts also disappeared. Where is this place? The whooshing crocodile looked around. At this time, although the holy light emitted by the world seed had disappeared, the terrifying space power and other dangerous, mysterious forces were no longer around. They were not in danger at this time. Lin Tian also looked around. He opened his eye of delusion breaker. He paused, and his expression changed slightly. It seems like a crack between worlds, he said in a low voice. What? Are you sure? The whooshing crocodile stared. It should be, Lin Tian said with a frown. There were many big worlds in the big heaven and earth. Every big world couldn't be completely connected. There were gaps. These gaps were called the crack between worlds. The crack between worlds was an area without any spiritual chi or immortal spiritual chi. It was difficult to find a way out. Even powerful immortal cultivators would die if they stayed here for too long. After all, cultivators could not eat or drink because they were supported by spiritual chi and immortal spiritual chi. Without these spiritual chi, immortal spiritual chi, and at the same time, without food, the cultivator would use up the power of his flesh and soul. Once the power of his flesh and soul was used up, he would die. Chapter 1917. How did I end up in the crack between worlds? Whooshing crocodile's eyes widened. The crack between worlds was not a good place. It was very dangerous. It's already good enough to survive. It's normal for us to end up in this place. Lin Tiandao. They were trapped in the tunnel between worlds. Since the tunnel had collapsed, it was very likely that they would end up in the crack between worlds. That's true, but this is really not a good place, Whooshing Crocodile said. Then, it asked, how do we leave this place now? Slowly find a way out, Lin Tian said casually. It was difficult to find a way out in the crack between worlds because there was no sense of direction. Even so, it was not impossible to find a way out. It was just more difficult. Moreover, in this place, their cultivation was still there, not suppressed. Moreover, he also had some precious pills and immortal medicines on him. Even if there was no spiritual chi or immortal spiritual chi here, relying on the spiritual energy contained within these precious pills and immortal medicines, it was enough for them to last for 10,000 years. There was no need to rush. Even if these bowed-in, immortal herds were completely used up, it would not be a threat to their lives. That was because he still had the myriad wood root, which contained endless life energy. It was almost impossible to use it up. After all, it was a rare divine object in the world. Even for those who had surpassed the celestial of the Archrealm, it was considered an extraordinary treasure. It was very dark in the crack between worlds. Stones floated in the air. There was almost no gravity here. However, for powerful cultivators, this naturally did not affect their movements. The man and the two beasts walked in there. They had no sense of direction at all. The power of divine sense could not be used here. There was interference from foreign forces. Even Lin Tion's delusion breaker divine eye was useless here. In the blink of an eye, they were in the middle of the crack looking for a way out. A full month had passed. In a month, they had gone to many places, but they still could not find a way out. A month has passed in here. I don't know how much time has passed outside. It should be several decades. Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian didn't say anything about this, but it did sound a little depressing. Because they were in the crevice of the world, it was impossible for them to cultivate. There was no spiritual energy here at all, and the flow of time here was different compared to the flow of time in the outside world. They stayed here for a day, and nearly a year had passed outside. This was a very bad thing. Of course, this wasn't a serious matter. It wouldn't affect their survival, but it would affect their mood. He called out to the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu and continued to search for a way out of this world. Outside the world crack, in an ordinary great world, 6 figures were walking together, each with a terrifying aura. It's very strange. We've been in the lower realm for dozens of years, but we haven't sensed the aura of that human. One of them frowned. The sensing divine treasure that Taoist master gave us shouldn't be wrong. Once we enter this low-level world, we should be able to sense that human's aura in the blink of an eye. Why haven't we found anything yet? Could it be that he died in an accident? No, if that human died, the sensing divine treasure that Taoist master gave us would collapse immediately. It's similar to that human's life soul lamp. Then what's going on? I don't understand. Maybe he's in some special forbidden area, and there's a strange force that's blocking his aura. Continue to search, the 6 of them said. After a pause, one of them frowned and asked, "Where does the godly king of destruction live? Why didn't he gather here?" It seems that he found an ancient site and is exploring it. It's said that there's a great treasure there. Another person said. The person who asked the question frowned even more. He seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. His voice was indifferent. Forget it. We can't sense that human's aura now, so let him be. We'll split up and explore other places. I think we can find out something about that human. The other 5 nodded. Their auras were very strong, and they dispersed in the blink of an eye. In the crack between worlds, Lin Tian led the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu in a fixed direction, looking for a way out. With his thinking, if he walked in a straight line, there was a chance that he would touch the barrier between worlds and then step out. This method was a little clumsy, but there were no other good methods at the moment. In the blink of an eye, the man and the 2 beasts walked in the crack between worlds. 3 years had passed. 3 years had passed. On this day, Lin Tian's method worked. They walked in a straight line at an extremely fast speed. They walked an endless distance and finally found the existence of a world barrier. We can go out now. The man and the 2 beasts were pleasantly surprised. This world barrier wasn't very strong. Even a true god could blast it open. They could definitely open a way out. Immediately, Lin Tian made his move. He directly threw a punch. A powerful fist force vibrated and opened a world tunnel. "Let's go," he said. He wrapped the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu in golden divine light and directly stepped into the world tunnel. With a whoosh, they brought along a wave of golden light and directly disappeared from the spot. In the world tunnel, all kinds of lights were mixed. They were in the middle of it. Not long after, a surging power surged. Then, with a bang, all of them were shaken out, causing them to step on solid ground again. At the same time, almost at the same time, in several unknown places, 7 figures' expressions changed. They sensed something. It's appeared. 6 of the figures directly left, disappearing in an instant. Another figure was in a pitch-black ancient tomb. His eyes were intertwined with the light of destruction. At most, we'll be able to get that precious treasure in a few dozen breaths. After we get it, we'll rush over immediately. At this time, Lin Tian, the whooshing crocodile, and the little Taichu stepped on solid ground. As far as the eye could see, there were mountains after mountains. They couldn't be compared to the celestial mountains in the Daffin Divine Land, but they were still very impressive. We're finally out. The whooshing crocodile was slightly excited. Find someone and ask how many years have passed in the outside world. The Lin Tian Dao. At this time, he didn't think about whether this was the celestial void realm. That was obviously impossible. The celestial void realm's world barrier couldn't be so weak that he could blast it open. Moreover, the celestial mountains here couldn't even compare to the ancient peaks in the Daffin Divine Land. How could this be the celestial void realm? Immediately, he called out to the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu and walked along the main road. Before long, he saw the figures of human cultivators. He walked over and politely asked about the current year. Then, he and the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu stared at each other. 1,000 years have already passed. The whooshing crocodile couldn't help but roll his eyes. P.S. I'm sure many readers have already guessed who those 7 people from the lower realm are. They're the 7 divine kings who went to the past to kill the Lin Tian's child. This place is starting to fill the hole from that time. Chapter 1918. Although they already knew that the passage of time in the world crack was different from the outside world, and that 3 years and there was definitely more than 3 years in the outside world, they were still dumbfounded when they learned that 1,000 years had passed in the outside world. 1,000 years? I'm really... Lin Tian smiled wryly. 1,000 years was gone, just like that. I'm crying. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have stepped into that broken passage. We didn't even reach the void realm, and we wasted 1,000 years for nothing. Those old god emperors from the Daffin Divine Land are really unreliable. Whooshing Crocodile was speechless and asked the heavens. Little Taichu, on the other hand, didn't have much of a reaction. Other than widening its eyes at the beginning, it quickly returned to normal. Lin Tian also quickly returned to normal. Forget it, let's not think about it. It won't affect us anyway. At most, we'll just waste 1,000 years. From the words of the previous cultivators, he already knew that this world was called the Kantian realm and that the strongest cultivator here was only at the true god realm. He called out to Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu and punched open a world portal, preparing to leave and return to the 10 Directions Heaven domain. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. He wanted to return to the 10 Directions Heaven domain to see Wu Yi, Ruoxian, and Jiyu. As for the things needed for the world seed to blossom and bear fruit, it wouldn't be too late to find them after a year or 2 in the 10 Directions Heaven domain. Let's go. He immediately stepped into the world portal with Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu. However, at this moment, his expression changed slightly. He wrapped Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu in a golden divine light and retreated hundreds of meters away. At this moment, a black light landed where he was before. With a boom, it completely enveloped the place where he was standing, causing the void there to be annihilated. The divine senses of people from a lower world are quite impressive. An indifferent voice sounded, and 6 figures appeared in the sky. They were all middle-aged men, and all of them had cold and deep eyes. All of them emitted extremely shocking auras. Lin Tian and the others looked in the direction of the voice, and naturally saw these 6 people. They are all god kings. Divine kings were the pinnacle of power, and they were not ordinary at all. It's terrifying. Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. Lin Tian frowned, naturally noticing the difference between the 6 of them. In the past, when he was in the Daffin Divine Earth, he had suppressed many God King realm experts. He had even killed a few God King realm experts, and he had even seen a few peak God King realm experts. However, those God Kings were too weak compared to these 6 people. These 6 people actually made him feel pressured. Furthermore, it was a huge amount of pressure. At the same time, seeing these 6 people, he had a very strange feeling. Why do I feel like I've seen them before? It seems like he was killed by someone? He muttered to himself. What? Next to him, Whooshing Crocodile heard him muttering to himself. are you dreaming? As it spoke, it looked at the 6 people and suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. This seems like Master Crocodile has some impression of them. As it spoke, it thought of something again and said to Lin Tiandao, "Kid, they just mentioned a lower world." Lin Tian heard this and came back to his senses. He also thought of that sentence and was slightly moved. "You guys are from the Heaven Void realm?" he asked in a deep voice. They said that they were from a lower world, so these 6 people were definitely from a higher world. Currently, the upper-class world that he knew was the legendary Heaven of Nothingness. The 6 people looked at Lin Tian with a natural condescending posture. Their eyes were indifferent. "You're not stupid. Why waste time talking nonsense? Just suppress them and bring them back to the Heaven realm," one of them said coldly. Then, as soon as he finished speaking, he directly made a move and slapped towards Lin Tian. With a buzzing sound, where the palm passed, the space in all directions was annihilated immediately. Lin Tian didn't retreat. He raised his hand directly and punched back. In the blink of an eye, the 2 people's fists and palms collided with each other, directly erupting with a roar and erupting with hurricanes. Among the 6 people, the one who made the move took a step back, shattering a piece of the void. At the same time, Lin Tian also took a step back, shattering a piece of the ground. This whooshing crocodile widened its eyes. It was very clear how powerful Lin Tian's physique was. It knew how strong Lin Tian's physique was. In the Divine King realm, it thought that Lin Tian's physical body should be invincible. However, the person opposite him was also a Divine King, but in a confrontation of physical strength, he was actually not weaker than Lin Tian. Lin Tian was naturally shocked as well. Although he had sensed from the start that the person who had attacked him was not simple, he did not expect that the other party's palm would actually be able to block his punch. He was shocked here, but the person opposite him was even more shocked than him. Deep in his eyes, there was a look of fear. "You're just a person from an inferior world, but you can actually resist my physical body," the person who made the move said in a low voice. At the same time, the other 5 people who followed him were also shocked. Their eyes slightly narrowed, and their gaze fell on Lin Tian. The person who made the move was called Yu. He had the bloodline of myriad stars. Like them, he was extremely famous even among the Divine King realm experts in the Heaven realm of nihility. He was known as the Supreme Divine King. Throughout his cultivation, he had refined his physical body with endless divine blood and sacred medicine. In terms of pure physical strength, even the Barbarian King physique could not compare with him. Now that he was at the peak of the Divine King realm, his cultivation was much higher than Lin Tian's. Under such circumstances, he was unable to win against Lin Tian in terms of physical strength. "I don't believe it." Again, Divine King Yu said coldly. This time he took a step forward, waved his palm, and slapped towards Lin Tian again. This time, the palm power was obviously more vigorous than before. The force was terrifying, as if an ancient star was pressing down. This whooshing crocodile's heart palpitated. Such physical strength was too shocking. Was this the strength of a divine king from the heaven realm of nihility? Compared to the divine kings they had seen, he was not at the same level at all. He was like an existence at the divine emperor realm. Even little Taichu widened his eyes. He was shocked by this person's physical strength. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed, but he did not retreat. He raised his fist and went forward, punching his opponent directly. The 2 of them clashed directly. The fist light and the palm shadow collided, causing the space to shatter one after another. Under the collision of pure physical strength, the ground also sank, and dozens of huge tornadoes swept up in this place. In the blink of an eye, dozens of breaths passed. Puff! With a soft sound, the 2 people's fists and palms collided again. This time, blood spurted out. The divine king Yu staggered back. The web between his thumb and forefinger was torn, and blood was spurting out. One could even see the eerie, white bones inside. As expected, Lin Tian is still the strongest. In the same realm, no one can beat Lin Tian in terms of physical strength. Chapter 1919. Droplets of blood floated in the air. They were the blood of the divine king of darkness. It was bright red and looked particularly glaring. He lost to a human from the lower world in terms of physical strength. The other 5 divine kings who were with him narrowed their eyes. They were shocked by the scene before them. The divine king of darkness steadied himself. The web between his thumb and forefinger split open. Blood flowed out bit by bit. He had the bloodline of 1,000 stars. In the celestial void realm, he was known as the supreme divine king. There were few who were his match in the divine king realm. His physical body was one of the factors that made him famous in the divine king realm. He had tempered it with endless divine blood and sacred medicine. It was even more powerful than the barbarian king physique. Now, he was at the peak of the divine king realm. However, in terms of physical strength, he was no match for an early-stage divine king from the lower world. Ants. His voice was cold. At this moment, he was enraged. With a rumble, divine power surged from his body. He used his divine power at this moment. He took a step forward and pressed down on Lin Tian. As he took a step forward, his murderous intent shook and distorted the surroundings. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. This person's divine power was a little terrifying. It made him feel threatened. At that moment, he did not let his guard down. He activated the Sun Heart Sutra. Golden divine power surged out, and he used his divine power to meet the attack. At this moment, he could clearly feel that he would definitely be at a disadvantage if he fought the opponent with his physical strength alone. It was impossible to block. In the blink of an eye, the two collided. 2 different types of divine power collided, causing the sky to rumble. Crack! A shattering sound was heard. The void and the ground cracked together. Under the collision of their divine power, cracks appeared. The divine king of darkness's eyes were cold. He felt humiliated that his physical strength had lost to an early-stage divine king from the lower world. As his divine power surged, there was an extremely terrifying murderous intent intertwined. He did not know how many powerful enemies he had killed. This level of divine power was too strong. It shocked the whooshing crocodile in the distance. It had seen many peak divine kings in the Daffin divine land. However, compared to the divine king of darkness in front of it, it was as if they were on a completely different level. Yeah, even the little Taichu's eyes were wide open. He was shocked by the divine energy waves emitted by the godly king of darkness. It was truly too powerful. Lin Tian was also astonished. His opponent's divine might was incomparably vast, as heavy as divine metal. The collision actually caused his blood and qi to tremble. Needless to say, this was a very frightening thing. One had to know that although he was only an early divine king and his cultivation was much lower than his opponent's, he was still an extremely powerful reincarnation body after all. Ordinary peak divine kings would not be able to resist him at all, let alone make his blood flow. However, this person had done it. Of course, although he was shocked, his expression did not change. He did not show the slightest bit of fear. At the end of the day, although his blood qi had been shaken by the collision of the other party's divine power, it was not suppressed by the other party, so it was not a big deal. He brandished his fist, bringing forth a large expanse of divine light. It was a pure golden color, wrapping around the fist as it smashed towards the other party. With rumbling sounds, the space in all directions began to tremble even more intensely. An even more intimidating hurricane was produced, sweeping through large amounts of space. Divine power surged outside Divine King Dark World's body. Deep in his eyes, there was shock intertwined. He had the bloodline of the myriad stars. His physique was powerful, and his divine power was extraordinary. Compared to ordinary cultivators, the quality of his divine power was completely different. However, now that he had unleashed his divine power to attack Lin Tian, he was unable to suppress Lin Tian, an early-stage divine king. Moreover, with each collision, his blood and qi were shaken to the point where he felt pain. Dark World has already unleashed his divine power, but he still can't suppress him? It's not just his shell that's powerful. The other 5 Divine King powerhouses who were with Divine King Dark World were moved. Rumble! At this moment, divine power shook violently in front of them, producing an explosive sound. Divine King Dark World's eyes were icy cold. The divine power around him undulated like the waves of the sea. Following that, huge stars appeared one after another. Every star seemed to exist in reality, suppressing the surroundings with their might. In an instant, Divine King Dark World seemed to have transformed into the Lord of Stars. At this moment, the stars revolved around him, surveying the world with an imposing aura. Lin Tian was moved. He instantly felt immense pressure, and even the faint threat of death arose. He immediately raised his divine power and unleashed the towering heaven sword scripture, slashing out boundless sword gleams. At the same time, he frowned slightly. He sensed an extraordinary aura. It was the fluctuation of bloodline power. He's not an ordinary person. He has a powerful bloodline. He thought to himself. As he thought to himself, he stepped forward. As he brandished the sword scripture, he approached these huge stars with his body and retreated quickly. He was a reincarnated body, and all the innate divine powers of his bloodline were useless against him. However, at this time, when he approached with his physical body, he immediately felt a great sense of threat. This meant that these stars with the power of his bloodline were not innate divine powers. They were merely the ultimate embodiment of the power of his bloodline, mixed with his divine power. He has perfectly refined bloodline power into divine power. He was astounded again. In this world, there were many people with special bloodlines. Some bloodline holders were able to refine the power of their bloodline into their divine power, causing their divine power to be mixed with the power of their bloodline, increasing the quality of their divine power by a lot. However, it was not perfect. Being able to refine 10% of the power of their bloodline into their divine power was already very shocking, and their battle prowess would increase by a lot. However, the person before him now gave him the feeling that he had completely refined bloodline power into divine power. This was very terrifying. Ordinary bloodline users would definitely not be able to do such a thing. Rumble. There was a loud rumble. Divine King Dark World's expression was cold. Huge stars revolved around him, almost making this place look like a starry sky. The divine power of myriad stars surged violently. Lin Tian circulated the towering heaven sword scripture with all his might. Golden sword gleams circled around him one after another, slashing at these huge stars. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged blows for 15 minutes. With a bang, Lin Tian's towering heaven sword gleams shattered a large number of stars. He was pushed back several feet by the divine power of myriad stars. Brat! In the distance, whooshing crocodile's expression changed. Lin Tian had actually been pushed back and landed below at this moment. Even the little Taichu beside him was shocked. Rumble! In front, divine power surged around Divine King Dark World's body. Huge stars revolved around him, and his aura became even stronger. He pressed down on Lin Tian again. Cultivators from the lower realm are ultimately not enough. His eyes were cold, and his voice was indifferent. It was as if he was the master of the galaxy walking in the mortal world. He had a lofty attitude. Countless huge stars revolved, releasing endless light. They pressed down on Lin Tian mightily. Everywhere they passed, everything was annihilated. Lin Tian had already stabilized his body. His expression did not change as he snorted coldly. So, what if you're from the upper realm? Put away that arrogant face of yours, he said coldly. As he finished speaking, golden divine light surged around his body. His aura skyrocketed. Clang! Chapter 19:20. The golden sword gleam pierced through the Divine King of Darkness' chest, and blood splattered everywhere. Cracks even appeared on his chest, and the cracks extended, making his body look like a cracked ceramic. It was a ghastly sight. The eyes of the other 5 god kings who were with the godly king of darkness immediately narrowed. In the clash of divine powers, Lin Tian actually managed to pierce through the godly king of darkness with his sword gleam after suffering an instant of disadvantage, causing the godly king of darkness to be even more heavily injured. In the clash of divine powers, Lin Tian is still strong enough. Whooshing Crocodile wanted to laugh out loud, but he didn't. He looked at the other 5 divine kings warily from time to time. The 5 of them were with the divine king of darkness, and they could attack at any time. In the battlefield, specks of blood splattered everywhere. The divine king of darkness expression turned cold again. His body shook violently, and with a whoosh, he shattered the golden divine sword that Lin Tian pierced through his chest. The large stars around him increased in number, and they rumbled. Following that, the large stars around him grew even larger, and the void turned dark silver, as though a part of the starry sky had been pulled apart. Suddenly, an even more terrifying aura surged, rolling and surging. At the same time, the blood that splattered around him swirled up and suddenly turned into a blood-colored wave that covered the entire sky. As the blood-colored wave moved, the air sizzled as it was corroded. The terrifying demonic power contained within was evident. My blood will never be shed in vain. His voice was extremely cold. Lin Tian snorted. He didn't dodge and took the initiative to face the attack. As he swung the towering heaven sword scripture, he executed the Chaos Emperor Fist. The sharp and ear-piercing sword gleam was mixed with the terrifying fist power, and it directly crushed a part of the void. Roar! Roar! The roar of dragons and cries of phoenixes reverberated. Among the golden sword gleams that filled the sky, a divine dragon and a divine phoenix appeared. They intertwined with boundless divine powers and pressured the divine king of darkness, enveloping everything in the surroundings with an oppressive aura. In the intense clash, the large stars around the divine king of darkness crumbled one after another, and the sea of blood was also annihilated bit by bit. Both parties were equally matched. Myriad stars manifest, immortals and demons kneel. A cold voice was heard. The divine king of darkness spoke, and his eyes were filled with starlight. In the next moment, countless stars were intertwined around him. Every star was in a myriad of colors, and they intertwined with unparalleled power. It was unknown how much stronger the divine powers from before. The innate superpower of the myriad star bloodline. I did not expect you to use it so quickly. The other 5 godly kings who were with godly King Darkness were slightly moved. With that, this battle is over. Of course, you can bring him back to report. He has already wasted 1,000 years in the lower realm. The other 3 spoke. Looking at Lin Tian's expression, it was as if Lin Tian was already a caged beast. They were well aware of how powerful the divine king of darkness's innate divine ability was. Even an ordinary early-stage divine emperor would frown when faced with such an ability and would have to be cautious. Even if the divine king from the lower domain had astonishing aptitude and his body and divine power were slightly stronger than the divine king of darkness, it was impossible for him to block the divine king of darkness's innate divine ability. Boom! Myriad stars trembled and pressed down. In the blink of an eye, they landed on top of Lin Tian's head. Among the divine kings, there are only a handful who can make me use this move. You should feel honored. The divine king of darkness's voice was cold. There was no deliberate arrogance. It was a natural arrogance that came from his bones. He felt that he was superior to Lin Tian. Lin Tian did not say anything. Naturally, he had already heard from the other 5 divine kings that this was the divine king of darkness's bloodline ability. At the same time, he had also sensed it. At this moment, he did not hesitate at all and directly charged towards the other party. In the next moment, his figure charged into the divine king of darkness's bloodline talent and was drowned by countless large stars. Dark, hold back. Don't kill him here. We need to bring him back and hand him over to the sect master. One of the 5 divine kings who came with the divine king of darkness said. The divine king of darkness nodded. Don't worry, I know. I'll swoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air reverberated and interrupted him. Lin Tian stepped out of the bloodline talent and came before him. He raised his hand and punched. Bang! The punch was extremely fast. It landed squarely on the Divine King of Darkness's face and smashed half of his face. The expressions of the 5 other God Kings with the God King of Darkness changed. Just a moment ago, they were still reminding the God King of Darkness to hold back and not use his innate ability to kill Lin Tian. However, they never thought that in the next moment, Lin Tian would actually charge out unscathed and shatter half of the God King of Darkness face with a single punch. This filled them with disbelief. Whooshing Crocodile laughed sinisterly and muttered softly. Using a bloodline talent on Lin Tian in the same realm is simply asking for trouble. The reincarnation body countered all king bodies, king territories, and bloodline divine arts. The Divine King of Darkness's pure bloodline talent to suppress Lin Tian might seem like a killing move to others. However, to Lin Tian, it was equivalent to giving up all defense and attack. It was equivalent to turning himself into a live target. In the battlefield far away, Lin Tian sent the Divine King of Darkness flying with a punch. He did not stop at all and directly approached the Divine King of Darkness. He performed the Chaos Emperor's Fist and High Heaven Sword scripture at the same time. The ferocious fist gleam and domineering sword gleam came crashing down. In an instant, the dense fist gleam and sword gleam landed on the Divine King of Darkness's body. They punched holes in the Divine King of Darkness's body as blood spurted out continuously. Then, the Divine King of Darkness's body collapsed completely. A cold and furious voice drifted out. The Divine King of Darkness's divine soul was not extinguished, and the gaze he looked at Lin Tian with was frighteningly cold. What did you do just now? What happened? He stared at Lin Tian. No matter how hard he tried, he could not understand why his bloodline talent was useless against Lin Tian. Lin Tianling snorted. He did not waste any time talking nonsense with the Divine King of Darkness. With a wave of his hand, the Divine Transformation Talisman appeared. Holding the Divine Transformation Talisman and hand seal, he pressed down on the Divine King of Darkness. Don't be too complacent, the Divine King of Darkness said coldly. His voice was filled with anger and murderous intent. His divine soul trembled, and a divine soul ripple suddenly spread out. With a swoosh, the Divine Transformation Talisman Lin Tian used was shattered. Then, the divine soul ripple continued to spread towards him. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. He immediately retreated quickly to avoid the divine soul ripple. He did not expect the Divine King of Darkness to use his divine soul to cast such a terrifying soul skill. Just looking at the divine soul ripple caused his divine soul to hurt slightly. If he was hit, he could imagine how terrible it would be. He would definitely be severely injured. The sound of flesh wriggling could be heard. In the blink of an eye, the Divine King of Darkness reformed his body. You have really angered me. The Divine King of Darkness's voice became even colder as he looked at Lin Tian. At this moment, he could not be bothered to think about how Lin Tian could block his bloodline talent. He only wanted to defeat Lin Tian ruthlessly and suppress Lin Tian. Then, he would bring Lin Tian back to the celestial world of nothingness to report on his completion of the mission. In an instant, there was a rumbling sound. The large stars around him intertwined and rotated. Then they condensed into one star. On the surface of this one and only star, the aura of the Milky Way surged. It was like the emperor of all stars. 10,000 stars returned to one. As the extremely cold voice came from the Divine King of Darkness's mouth, the star that was formed from 10,000 stars trembled and pressed down on Lin Tian. In an instant, the surrounding space was completely sealed. Light shone in all directions. Chapter 19:21. The 10,000 stars converged into one. With a single huge star as his killing weapon, the Divine King of Darkness was imposing and his battle spirit was soaring. The single huge star was mixed with the unparalleled bloodline power of the 10,000 stars. It was obviously stronger than the previous gifted superpowers. Facing the huge star, Lin Tian immediately felt a huge threat. All the pores on his body tightened. However, his expression did not change. He did not dodge and faced it head-on. Boom! Golden divine radiance overflowed into the sky. He raised his hand, and after the heaven-ascending sword scripture and chaos emperor fist, he also executed the divining divine technique. Divine images of the divining divine images interweaved one after another, and they majestically surged upwards, crashing into the only great star. In the next moment, the two collided. Terrifying gales swept out into space. The destructive power was terrifying. With two bangs, Lin Tian and the Divine King of Darkness were pushed back at the same time. Their blood was boiling. The Divine King of Darkness, 10,000 stars, converged into one, was blocked as well. The other 5 people who followed the Divine King of Darkness frowned. On the other side, Wuxing Crocodile and Little Taichu were also shocked. However, the reason for their shock was different from the other 5 people. In the Divine King realm, there is actually someone who can fight with Lin Tian for such a long time. This is simply, Wuxing Crocodile frowned. He felt that the Divine King of Darkness was really terrifying. He was indeed someone from the heaven of Nihility realm. "Yeah, beat him up," Little Taichu said in a childish voice. He looked at Lin Tian, waving his little claws. It was as if he was cheering for Lin Tian. In front, on the battlefield, the Divine King of Darkness' face turned colder. He came from the heaven of Nihility realm and possessed the 10,000 stars bloodline. He was at the peak of the Divine King realm. However, after such a long time, he was still unable to suppress an early Divine King from the lower world. Moreover, in the battle, he seemed to be at a disadvantage. "I have to admit that this bug of yours is really extraordinary. In this lower world, it is extraordinarily strong," he said coldly. Then, with a bang, not only did the boundless bloodline energy of a myriad of stars interweave around his body, there were even divine Tao laws revolving around him. Numerous chains of divine laws appeared, and they clanged as they linked up numerous great stars, causing his aura to multiply. At the same time, a precious imprint rushed out from his body, interweaving with astonishing divine king radiance, forming a peak-level divine king weapon. In the celestial void world, there aren't many people who are able to force me to use my full combat strength as a divine king, he said mercilessly. Then, with a rumbling sound, the divine Tao law chains and divine king weapons pressed down on Lin Tian. The surrounding space immediately distorted. This aura was at least 10 times stronger than that of the single great star from before. Facing this fierce attack, Lin Tian's expression didn't change at all as he faced it head-on. Buzz! Divine radiance buzzed. At this moment, he decisively brought out the king's territory. The reincarnation diagram rose, and a divine aura spread out majestically. At the same time, a divine halberd rushed out from his body. It was the divine king weapon that he had extorted from the Jili cave back then. He used the reincarnation diagram of the king's territory in conjunction with the divine king weapon to face his opponent's murderous aura. In the blink of an eye, they collided. With a rumbling sound, the destructive aura was vast and mighty, and the surrounding void collapsed inch by inch. In this collision, the two of them used divine skills against divine skills and divine weapons against divine weapons. At the same time, fist shadows and palm prints were also continuously thrown. In the blink of an eye, they had collided for more than 10 breaths. Puff! A muffled sound was heard. The divine halberd that Lin Tian brought out was on par with the divine king's divine seal. However, the reincarnation diagram was ultimately stronger than his opponent's divine skill. At this moment, it annihilated his opponent's divine skill and directly landed on his opponent, crushing half of his physical body into pieces. Divine King Dark World was shocked and furious. He had already brought out his strongest combat strength, but he still couldn't suppress Lin Tian. Once again, he was injured by Lin Tian. Lin Tian didn't say anything, but his body was trembling slightly. His face also seemed paler than before. Just now, although he had annihilated his opponent's divine skill and shattered half of his physical body, he had also suffered some backlash. The blood and chi in his body were in a frenzy, producing waves of intense pain. He had suffered some internal injuries. This made him feel even more deeply how terrifying Divine King Dark World was. In the collision between his divine skill and his reincarnation diagram, although the divine skill was crushed by the reincarnation diagram, the backlash after the divine skill was destroyed could actually injure him. It was really powerful. He looked at Divine King Dark World with a deep gaze. He activated the nirvana of the sun and quickly adjusted his breathing and recovered from his injuries. Then he attacked again. With each step, he left behind an afterimage. He used the duality steps to force his way towards his opponent and directly threw out the Chaos Emperor fist. Dong! With a loud sound, his fist arrived in front of Divine King Dark World in the blink of an eye. Swoosh! It was also at this moment that a soft sound rang out. The other 5 Divine Kings who were with the Divine King of Darkness made their move. A black flame flew over, burning the void in all directions as it pressed down on Lin Tian. This flame was mixed with extreme heat, as if it could burn everything. It forced Lin Tian to stop in his tracks. Then, he moved dozens of feet away to avoid the black flame that was flying towards him. His divine instinct is really extraordinary. Let's attack together. Don't waste any more time. Suppress him quickly and report back. Don't let the sect master wait too long. The 5 Divine Kings moved. Their Taoist names were He Yin, Qian Tu, Dong Ao, Lan Xiao, and Luo Han. At this moment, divine radiance intertwined around their bodies. Their cold gazes all landed on Lin Tian. Divine King Dark World reformed his body once again. He wanted to say that he could suppress Lin Tian alone, but he did not say it in the end. This was because after a short exchange, he really felt how powerful Lin Tian was. It was very difficult for him to suppress Lin Tian alone. In an instant, he stood together with the other 5 Divine Kings. 6 powerful Divine King auras enveloped Lin Tian together. Lin Tian's body trembled slightly as he naturally sensed the auras of the 6 of them pressing down on him. It caused his body to feel pain, and an extremely real feeling of the threat of death arose within him. It was as if a boundless Milky Way was hanging above his head and was about to press down. However, his expression did not change. On the contrary, strands of light intertwined in his eyes. "Let's see what you can do to me," he said coldly. These 6 people were all very powerful. They could all injure him. The combined aura of the 6 of them was naturally even more terrifying, bringing him great pressure. Faced with such pressure, he was not afraid. He wanted to use these 6 people to test the limits of his current battle strength. Boom! Golden divine radiance rushed out of his body. It surged mightily and directly swept up violent hurricanes around him. "You are very powerful, very powerful. However, you are too arrogant." Divine King He Yin's voice was cold. He possessed the bloodline of He Yin, and wisps of black flames coiled around him. "Trying to fight the 6 of us alone is truly foolish." As he finished speaking, the black flames burned everything. They turned into a wave of black flames that pressed down on Lin Tian mightily. At the same time, the other Divine Kings attacked together. They all used their great techniques and attacked Lin Tian. Chapter 1922. The 6 Divine Kings attacked together, and their might was extraordinary. Lin Tian could feel that these 6 people all possessed shocking bloodlines. Boom! He used various techniques to shake the 6 of them, setting off one divine power storm after another. His battle aura was intimidating. Divine King Dark World and the other 5 all had cold eyes, and their auras were vigorous. All sorts of precious techniques were unleashed, especially Divine King Dark World. He couldn't suppress Lin Tian in a short period of time, so his killing intent towards Lin Tian was very strong. His attacks were heavy, and countless stars revolved around him. In an intense collision, 7 powerful divine powers interweaved, and the space collapsed inch by inch. The ground also sank along with it. Lin Tian fought the 6 of them alone. At this time, the divine light around him was blinding. On the surface, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage, but his body felt intense pain from time to time. The 6 people in front of him were too extraordinary. Each one of them was a formidable opponent, and he needed to use all his strength to deal with them. Now that he was facing the 6 of them together, the pressure was naturally very great. However, he didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. His eyes shone brightly, and his divine techniques bloomed with immortal divine light. Divine King Thousand Slaughter and the other 5 used various divine techniques, attacking Lin Tian from 6 different directions. Each of them had a vigorous aura, and then they couldn't help but frown slightly. This was because the 6 of them were attacking together. Logically speaking, they should be able to suppress Lin Tian in the blink of an eye, but the reality was that Lin Tian's divine power was boundless, and he was blocking all 6 of them at the same time. Divine King Black Flame's eyes were indifferent. He snorted coldly, and the flame power around him rolled, turning into a black wave that pressed down on Lin Tian. Flame Magma Storm. The black flames surged violently, and the heat was terrifying. It was a manifestation of the black flame's bloodline power, and its strength was terrifying. These flames were very frightening, burning away most of the divine power Lin Tian had unleashed and pressing towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression didn't change. Golden flames rushed out of his body, turning into a golden storm that met the black flames. The two collided, and there was a sizzling sound. The golden flames ignited a portion of the black flames. Pure Yang Flame? God King Black Flame's eyes narrowed. You actually control this kind of divine fire. Pure Yang Flame was the legendary divine flame that could burn away divine power, divine soul, and laws. It was extremely terrifying. Moreover, it was rumored that this level of divine fire could restrain all flames in the world, and even flames could be burned into nothingness. Seeing the pure Yang flames rush out from Lin Tian's body, God King He Yin showed a look of surprise, but soon after, a light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Hand it over to me. With a low roar, the divine might around the divine king of black flames grew thicker, and the black flames around him grew even stronger. Moreover, a divine king-level precious weapon rushed out from his body, and his battle prowess was immediately raised to the highest level possible. He pressed down on Lin Tian in this manner. He had the black flame bloodline, so after suppressing Lin Tian, he could directly extract the pure Yang flame from Lin Tian's body and integrate it into his black flame bloodline. This would definitely make his bloodline stronger, at least 3 to 5 times stronger than it was now. To him, this was even more tempting than a divine emperor-level precious weapon. Lin Tian snorted, and with a thought, the pure Yang flame became even more powerful, the golden divine fire covering the sky. The two sides clashed, and 2 different kinds of flames collided. This time, the black flames were not burned away. After colliding with the pure Yang flame, a sizzling sound rang out, and the surrounding space was melted away, creating a frightening scene. Lin Tian's expression was still indifferent, but he couldn't help feeling shocked. This God King, He Yan's black flames were truly terrifying. At this time, they had completely blocked his pure Yang flame and were not burned away. Soul Seal. An indifferent voice rang out as God King Qian, too, opened his mouth. Countless blood souls suddenly appeared in the surrounding space, each one exuding a terrifying aura that seemed capable of devouring all life in the world. Vaguely, mournful howls and whimpers came from the mouths of these blood souls. Each of them had a ferocious look on their faces as they fearlessly pounced towards Lin Tian. The resentment they exuded was so strong that even someone as strong as Lin Tian couldn't help feeling a chill run down his spine. However, his eyes grew even colder because he could see that these blood souls were refined from the souls of living beings, and they were not formed purely from divine energy. Moreover, there were even extremely small infants among these blood souls. It was as if their souls had been forcefully extracted from their swaddling clothes and then refined into their current forms using a special method. Asterisk Kong. Asterisk, the ear-piercing thunder immediately exploded. He thought of the 180,000 creatures that he had killed by mistake. At this moment, an extremely fierce killing intent rushed out of his body. The five thunders heaven-shaking incantation was activated immediately, causing endless purple thunder to strike down. In an instant, this place turned into a purple sea of lightning. Yonkai supported the five heavenly thunder realm, a domain-type divine technique, and moved with the yin-yang steps. He instantly appeared in front of God King Qian-Tu and punched him in the face. With a boom, the aura of this punch was forceful, and it contained his fierce killing intent and the power of the five lightning heaven shock incantation. It was ferocious and domineering, and its speed was slightly terrifying as it directly landed on Divine King Thousand Slaughter's face. Immediately, God King Qian-Tu's head was smashed to pieces, his brain mixed with blood splattering into the void. In the next moment, Lin Tian's fists spread out, shattering the rest of God King Qian-Tu's body below his head. God King Qian-Tu's soul was not destroyed, and he was both shocked and angry. His soul quickly withdrew, wrapped in his flesh and bones, and retreated. "I'll kill you." Lin Tian's voice was icy cold. He moved extremely quickly, enduring the attacks from the other five God Kings on his back. In the blink of an eye, he appeared before God King Qian-Tu's soul. He weaved a divine transformation talisman in his right hand and directly struck his soul. "Arcs!" God King Qian-Tu cried out miserably. The divine transformation talisman attacked the soul. It was a supreme secret technique that destroyed the soul. Now that Lin Tian had used it with his cultivation as a God King, the divine transformation talisman was obviously devastating. Crack! 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 God King Qian-Tu's soul began to crack as he cried out miserably. God King of Darkness and the others were shocked. They attacked even more fiercely, conjuring an even more powerful killing intent that crushed down on Lin Tian. Lightning revolved around Lin Tian as the divine transformation talisman condensed once again. He wanted to strike God King Qian-Tu again, but he was forced to give up on the attack when faced with the even more terrifying attacks from the other five God Kings. He moved several hundred meters away because he had already forcefully endured a round of attacks from the five of them. He was quite injured, so it would be very disadvantageous for him to take another hit. Boom! The blood-red light trembled as God King Qian-Tu roared. He forcefully crushed the power of the divine transformation talisman that Lin Tian had placed on his soul. Damn worm! Chapter 1923. Staring at Lin Tian, Divine King Qian-Tu's eyes were cold. In the blink of an eye, he reformed his body and new blood souls appeared outside his body. Strands of evil blood chi circled around him. Thousands of souls roared, and their voices shook the sky. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. Bolts of purple lightning struck down from the sky as he stared coldly at Divine King Qian-Tu's day. In the next moment, he moved. With the lightning in the sky, he went straight for Divine King Qian-Tu's day, Soul Devour. Divine King Qian-Tu roared. Like Divine King Dark World, after suffering a great loss at Lin Tian's hands, his killing intent became very strong. Lin Tian's body was surrounded by golden light. He used the yin-yang steps and left afterimages in the sky as he waved the Ling Tian sword scripture. In an instant, the clanging of the sword was very ear-piercing. A large amount of sword light slashed toward Divine King Qian-Tu's day swish. Swish! Swish! There were soft sounds, accompanied by blood mist. One after another, the hideous blood souls were shattered by him. These souls had been refined into puppets and killing tools by Divine King Qian-Tu's day. They had lost their sense of self, and even the so-called reincarnation possibility. They could only be killed. Wiping them out was to free them from their torment. Attack together. Let's end this quickly. Divine King Dong Ao said. A Divine King weapon rushed out from his sea of consciousness. At the same time, he used a powerful divine law. Divine King. Divine King Lan Xiao said. As soon as the two words came out, dense, strange runes appeared around him. Every rune was mixed with an aura that could suppress all things. At the same time, a divine king weapon rushed out from his body and pressed down on Lin Tian. At the same time, the other divine kings attacked together. They each took out their divine king weapons and used their divine laws. In an instant, rumbling sounds could be heard as the 6 god kings attacked Lin Tian together. They all displayed their divine Tao laws and god king weapons. Moreover, the bloodline fluctuations around their bodies were extremely powerful. All sorts of unfathomable divine abilities were displayed one after another. These bastards, they're really attacking together. Wuxing Crocodile gritted his teeth. He was angry and worried at the same time. This was because the 6 god kings before him were truly terrifying. They all possessed the ability to look down on the god king realm. Even little Taichu stared at the battlefield without blinking. There was a hint of worry in his big eyes. He was worried about Lin Tian. Boom! In front of them, divine power was rolling on the battlefield. The firmament was trembling, and layers of dark clouds were condensing. It was as if a calamity had occurred in this place. Space was collapsing, and the earth was caving in. The scene was terrifying. Lin Tian's body trembled slightly. A large amount of sword light was shattered by the 6 people's majestic aura, and he was blasted back dozens of feet. After stabilizing his body, the blood and qi in his body surged, and a wisp of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Previously, because he had attacked Divine King Thousand Slaughter, he had taken a round of attacks from Divine King of Darkness and the other 4. He had already suffered serious injuries. At this moment, the 6 of them released an even sharper killing aura that pressed down on him, causing his injuries to worsen. However, even so, his expression did not change in the slightest. It was still cold and indifferent. Even if the 6 of you come at me together, you won't be able to do anything to me, he said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a boom. He used the Thunder Divine Path and Nature Divine Path at the same time. He used the Thunder Divine Path and the 5 Thunder Sky Shock incantation to activate the power of the 9 Heavens Divine Thunder. He used the Nature Divine Path and the Dragon Burial Scripture to activate the killing light of the dragon patterns that filled the sky. The space within a radius of a few hundred feet was completely enveloped in his attack. Bang! 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 6 muffled groans were heard. Divine King Thousand Slaughter and the other 5 were all blasted back by his attack. The 6 great Divine Kings' expressions froze. They became very pale and even colder. The 6 of them were known as the Supreme Divine Kings in the Void World. However, now the 6 of them were besieging an early-stage Divine King from the lower world. Yet, they were all blasted back by his attack. Boom! Rolling divine power vibrated. The aura outside the 6 of them became even more terrifying and stronger. The divine Tao precepts were activated even more strongly. Their bloodline aura was burning like divine fire. It was extremely frightening. As soon as this aura was released, it was as if 6 destructive waves were pressing toward Lin Tian. It was very frightening. Qi! 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 Lin Tian's divine power was shattered by the attacks of the 6 great divine kings in the blink of an eye. Then, the divine path and divine power of the 6 arrived again. They were very fast and pressed toward Lin Tian. Lin Tian used the divining divine skill. He created one divining divine elephant after another and faced the divine power of the 6 divine kings at the same time. Suppress! The Eastern Pride divine king pressed forward. Dense runes intertwined around him. A suppress word appeared, emitting a bright divine light. It was as if it could suppress everything. It pressed down toward Lin Tian's head, wanting to suppress Lin Tian on the spot. At the same time, the others used even more powerful divine skills. They also used their divine weapons to the extreme. Together with their divine skills, they attacked Lin Tian from several different directions. They did not give Lin Tian a chance to dodge at all. Lin Tian's body trembled slightly. Under the ferocious attacks of the 6 people, the blood and qi in his body churned even more violently. Cracks involuntarily appeared on his body, as if he would be directly shattered by the killing power of the six people in the next moment. However, his expression did not change. He was still cold and indifferent. Buzz! The divine light was extremely dense. The immortal Emperor Pagoda flew out from his body. It was covered with thunder imprints and exuded a domineering and majestic aura. When it appeared, it annihilated the void in all directions. It crushed the divine power and secret skills of the six people. Then, without slowing down, it crashed into the divine king precious weapons of the six people. Crack! 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 3 crisp sounds were heard immediately. The divine king weapons of godly king Luo Han, godly king Qian Tu, and godly king of darkness shattered. They could not withstand the slight graze of the immortal Emperor Pagoda. They shattered into pieces and fell from the void. The 3 godly kings were shocked and furious. These were pinnacle divine king weapons that they had spent a lot of effort to forge. However, Lin Tian had destroyed them just like that. This was a huge loss to them. Then, in the next moment, the 3 of them were shocked again when they saw the immortal Emperor Pagoda that flew out from Lin Tian's body. Primordial Mother Qi? It's so dense. Forged from the legendary primordial heavenly crystal. The 3 of them were shocked. At the same time, the other 3 godly kings were shocked as well. They stared straight at the immortal Emperor Pagoda that Lin Tian had taken out. That's right. Only the legendary primordial heavenly crystal can manifest such dense primordial Mother Qi. An ant from the lower domain can actually find the primordial heavenly crystal. The 6 of them were shocked. The primordial heavenly crystal was the legendary ultimate divine material for forging divine weapons in the heaven of nothingness. It was priceless. Chapter 19:24. A treasure forged from primordial heavenly crystal was, without a doubt, extremely valuable. The 6 supreme gods were shocked. With a rumble, 6 waves of divine energy surged, stronger than before, pressing down on Lin Tian from different directions. The primordial heavenly crystal can be divided. Let's take it and divide it equally, then forge our own origin weapons. Supreme God Luo Han said. The other 5 nodded, and their divine energy became even stronger. Supreme God King Dong Ao, Supreme God King He Yin, and Supreme God King Lan Xiao activated their weapons to the maximum. Lin Tian's expression was cold and fearless. With a step, the immortal Emperor Pagoda moved, and the thunderous divine energy shook the surroundings. Crack! With a crisp sound, the immortal Emperor Pagoda crashed into the supreme God King Lan Xiao's weapon, shattering it instantly. As his origin source weapon, the immortal Emperor Pagoda was forged from Hong Meng heavenly crystals. Moreover, it had been baptized by heavenly tribulations time and time again. Moreover, it was constantly nourished by the power of faith. Naturally, it was extremely powerful. Normally, he wouldn't need to summon the immortal Emperor Pagoda to deal with ordinary enemies. However, the 6 people in front of him were truly extraordinary. Each of them was very powerful. Facing these 6 people together, he had no choice but to summon the immortal Emperor Pagoda and use his origin source weapon to attack. Crack! With another crisp sound, the immortal Emperor Pagoda crashed into the supreme God King He Yan's weapon, shattering it instantly. Then, the immortal Emperor Pagoda shifted, crushing the supreme God King Lan Xiao's weapon, turning it into scraps. A cold light flashed in the eyes of Supreme God King Dong Ao, Supreme God King He Yin, and Supreme God King Lan Xiao. Their hearts ached when their weapons were destroyed, but they did not say anything. They only looked at the immortal Emperor Pagoda with burning eyes and released even stronger divine energy and bloodline power. As long as they could seize the immortal Emperor Pagoda, the destruction of their weapons would not be a big deal. The other 3 Supreme God Kings' attacks were not weak either. With the 6 of them working together, 6 types of bloodline power surged, and it was very frightening. Lin Tian was unafraid. The immortal Emperor Pagoda shook, and the lightning markings on it seemed to come alive. They intertwined with each other, and a divine and holy aura of faith spread out, pressing down on the divine might of the six. Immediately, a series of crackling sounds rang out. The divine powers that the divine king of darkness and the others had conjured were immediately crushed by the immortal Emperor Pagoda. The might of lightning and the might of faith surged out together, turning into 6 ripples that spread out in all directions. It was like a divine power storm that could destroy anything in its path. In the blink of an eye, the divine king of darkness and the others were all blasted away, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. Good, 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 as expected of something forged from grand mist heavenly crystals. The Eastern Proud Supreme being wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He stared at the immortal Emperor Pagoda with a burning gaze. In the next moment, an even more intimidating divine light rushed out of his body. Divine Tao laws appeared, the power of his bloodline appeared, and a strange phenomenon appeared in his sea of consciousness. 3 different kinds of power surrounded him, making him seem like an ancient god had descended. At the same time, the other 5 divine kings did not hold back at all. They attacked with all their might, using all sorts of techniques. Immediately, 6 even more terrifying divine mights surged. Rolling dark clouds appeared in the sky, and bolts of lightning intertwined. It was as if the end of the world was about to arrive. This aura in the distance, whooshing crocodile's heart palpitated. The aura that the divine king of darkness and the others were emitting now was much stronger than before. Yeah, little Taichu made a sound, looking at the battlefield ahead. There was some worry in its big eyes. In the battlefield, Lin Tian naturally sensed how powerful the aura that the 6 of them were emitting now. Even though he had conjured the immortal Emperor Pagoda, his spirit could not help but tremble. He sensed a great threat. Boom! There was an earth-shattering rumble. The divine king of darkness and the other 5 pressed over. 6 types of bloodline powers, 6 strange phenomena in their sea of consciousness, and a dozen types of exquisite divine Tao laws pressed down together, trapping Lin Tian within. Lin Tian held the immortal Emperor Pagoda and fought the 6 divine kings head-on. He unleashed his divine techniques one after another, clashing with the divine techniques of the 6 divine kings. Bang! With a dull thud, he was struck in the chest by the divine king of darkness and was sent flying. At the same time, the attacks of the other 5 divine kings landed on him, almost shattering his reincarnated divine body. Bright red blood floated in the air. He felt a heart-wrenching pain in his body, and because of that, he felt even more how terrifying the 6 of them were. They were truly incomparable to ordinary divine kings. All of them had the ability to dominate the divine king realm. He used the sun's nirvana art to protect himself. The immortal Emperor Pagoda shone brightly, and the might of lightning and faith surged. A wave of lightning and the light of faith rippled out like water ripples, but the aura was very frightening. It shattered the divine power of the 6 divine kings who were chasing after him and bombarded the glabella of the 6 of them. The divine king of darkness's eyes were cold. Stars revolved around him, shattering the waves of lightning and faith as they pressed down on Lin Tian again. At the same time, the other 5 divine kings also shattered the waves of lightning and faith that were pressing down on them, and continued their attacks. For a moment, the divine Tao of the 6 divine kings rumbled, and the power of their bloodlines intertwined. They were like 6 peerless divine emperors. Lin Tian used the immortal Emperor Pagoda to fight, but he was knocked back from time to time. The divine might that the 6 divine kings were exuding at this moment was too powerful. However, his expression did not change much. In the next moment, with a boom, the nameless Tao law surged out of his body. The reincarnation portrait rushed up and fused with the other 2 divine Taos. In the blink of an eye, the most powerful divine Tao reincarnation portrait was formed. As this powerful divine Tao reincarnation portrait appeared, an even more vast and majestic aura appeared. It was peerless and intimidating. He used the divine Tao reincarnation portrait together with the immortal Emperor Pagoda to attack. The corners of his mouth were stained with blood, but his aura became unparalleled. In an instant, he shattered the divine might mystic techniques of the six divine kings, and his divine might suppress the surroundings. Bang, bang, bang. 6 muffled groans were heard consecutively, bringing with them 6 bright red pools of blood. The 6 divine kings were all sent flying. I already said that the 6 of you can't do anything to me even if you work together, he said coldly, holding the divine Tao reincarnation portrait and driving the immortal Emperor Pagoda. He pressed down on the 6 divine kings again. Don't be so arrogant. Do you think we will lose to a mere divine king from the lower domain if we work together? Impossible. The 6 divine kings' eyes were sharp, and their voices were cold. They used various great Tao divine techniques one after another. With a boom, this place turned into a sea of killing in the blink of an eye. The void collapsed, the ground sank, and the firmament trembled. Lin Tian fought the 6 divine kings. Using all his techniques, he sent the 6 divine kings flying again and again. However, the 6 divine kings were not weak either. They were terrifyingly powerful and far from ordinary divine kings. Their various techniques were exquisite. While they were injured time and time again, they also injured Lin Tian time and time again. 7 different kinds of blood splattered. In the blink of an eye, the 7 divine kings fought fiercely. More than 6 hours had passed. More than 6 hours had passed. Within a radius of 10,000 zhang, the ground had sunk by at least a few dozen zhang, and the void was broken beyond recognition. Lin Tian's face was extremely pale at this time. He had suffered extremely serious injuries. However, the 6 divine kings opposite him were even worse. They were all covered in blood, and their auras had become very chaotic. You have lost. The corners of his mouth were stained with blood, and his voice was cold. He took a step forward, bringing with him a storm of divine might that sent the 6 divine kings flying. P.S. About that, in yesterday's chapter 1915, the dragon was muddle-headed and wrote that there were 7 enemy divine kings. There was a mistake here. It should have been 6. There was still one who had not arrived at the ancient site. However, this mistake has now been corrected on the internet. It was the 6 of them who caused inconvenience to our brothers and sisters. Please forgive them. Chapter 1925. Divine King of Darkness and the rest were sent flying as they coughed out blood. Their auras became chaotic, and they were extremely weak. How is this possible? The 6 of them looked pale, and their chests rose and fell violently. They could not believe that the 6 of them, who were known as supreme divine kings in the void world, could not defeat an early-stage divine king from the lower world when the 6 of them worked together. I don't believe it. Divine King Luo Hun roared. The 3-colored light floated and swept towards Lin Tian. It was mixed with his soul energy. There was no doubt that it was a superpower, and it was terrifying. At the same time, the other 5 divine kings attacked together. Naturally, they did not want to believe that they could not defeat Lin Tian even if they worked together. They used their super divine skills again. With a rumble, 6 divine skills surged. The destructive aura was terrifying as they attacked Lin Tian from 6 different directions. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He did not dodge and close in on the 6 of them. He pushed the Chaos Emperor fist to its limit. Dong! There was a loud sound accompanied by the rumbling of thunder. The 6 divine kings were sent flying again. Their divine bodies were tattered. At the same time, Lin Tian's Taoist body swayed slightly. His face turned paler. The blood in his body surged. Blood flowed from his mouth and dyed his chest red. However, he did not stop and continued to close in on the 6 of them. In the distance, the 6 divine kings who were sent flying stabilized themselves. Divine light surged as they healed their injured bodies with difficulty. Seeing Lin Tian close in, their faces turned ghastly. Retreat! One of them gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go." Another person said, "The situation was terrible. If they continued to fight, they would be in trouble." Without any hesitation, the six of them glanced at Lin Tian coldly and turned to flee. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed as he chased after them. However, he had only taken 3 steps before he stopped, and more blood gushed out of his mouth. Fighting against 6 great divine kings by himself. Although he had forcefully suppressed the 6 of them, he had also suffered extremely serious injuries. His divine power had almost dried up at this time, so wanting to catch up to the 6 of them and kill them was not really possible. You're quite strong when you're escaping. He stood where he was and looked in the direction the 6 of them had fled. He took a deep breath and used the sun's nirvana art to heal himself. At this moment, his clothes were dyed in blood, and his face was extremely pale. There were even many places on his body that had cracks that were flowing with blood. It would be difficult for him to completely heal in a short amount of time. It was also at this time that Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu flashed over. "Brad, how is it?" Whooshing Crocodile asked with furrowed brows. It had not seen Lin Tian suffer such heavy injuries in a battle with a cultivator of the same realm as him. It had not seen such a scene in a long time. Little Taichu asked Lin Tian with concern. "Don't worry, it's nothing serious." Lin Tian Dao. He was severely injured at the moment, but it was not life-threatening. He just needed some time to fully recover. Hearing him say this, Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu were relieved. Those people are really worthy of being from the Celestial Void Realm. They're really strong. They can even dominate the Divine King realm, Whooshing Crocodile said. Then it asked doubtfully, speaking of which, they seem to have come from the Celestial Void Realm specifically to capture you and bring you to some important figure in the Celestial Void Realm. When did you provoke someone from that world? Lin Tian thought for a moment and said, "It's either the 12-winged divine envoy or the soul shadow in the Daffin divine land." These were the only 2 important figures in the celestial realm that he had come into contact with over the years. After that, he did not say anything else. He called out to Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu and left this place. He needed to recuperate from his injuries. Soon, the man and the 2 beasts were extremely far away from this place. They found a very secluded place in a barren mountain. He set up layers of enchantments around him. Then, he sat down cross-legged and circulated the nirvana of the sun even faster. Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu stood guard at the side. Just like that, 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Lin Tian had completely recovered from his injuries. He walked out of the barren mountain with Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu. What should we do next? Should we search for the 6 divine kings from the upper realm and kill them all? Or should we return to the 10 Directions' heavenly domain? Whooshing Crocodile asked. It's very troublesome to find them. Let's ignore them for now and return to the 10 Directions' heavenly domain. Lin Tian opened his mouth. Before he finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed. He tilted his head and looked towards the northeast of this world. Just now, the divine sword in his sea of consciousness trembled for a long time. There was a 7-colored brilliance vaguely pointing in that direction. That feeling was as if it had sensed a new sword's soul fragment. This shocked him. There was a sword's soul fragment in this world. What's wrong, kid? Whooshing Crocodile saw his abnormality and asked him. I found something important. Lin Tian said simply, Follow me? He didn't say much. He directly flew into the air and headed towards the northeast of this world. Whooshing Crocodile was curious, but it didn't ask much. It followed him directly. As for Little Taichu, it naturally wouldn't ask anything. It would follow wherever Lin Tian went. The man and the 2 beasts moved very quickly. After about 6 hours, a huge abyss appeared in front of them. Wisps of black fog curled up from the afternoon. It was mixed with wisps of cold and evil aura, which made people feel a little scared. This place, Whooshing Crocodile, was moved. It was still at the level of a divine god. However, when it appeared here and looked at the huge abyss in front of it, it felt a chill for no reason. It was as if there was a supreme god emperor of ghosts below, which made it feel a little scared. Even Lin Tian, who was in the divine king realm, narrowed his eyes slightly at this moment. He felt threatened in this place. He stood at the edge of the abyss, paused and said, "Go down. Follow me carefully." This place was a little scary. It made someone as powerful as him feel a chill down his spine. He could feel the danger below. However, even so, he still had to go down. This was because when the divine sword in his sea of consciousness trembled, a seven-colored brilliance overflowed and pointed directly at this place. He was sure that there was a sword's soul fragment below. Therefore, he naturally had to go down. The sword's soul fragment was very important to him. It was even more important than the world seed in his body. He had to go down and get the sword soul fragment. Immediately, the man and the two beasts stepped down and slowly descended towards the bottom of the abyss. At this time, they all slowed down because the abyss here was obviously very unusual. They had to treat it with caution and couldn't relax in the slightest. Soon, they descended from the top of the abyss for about 100 feet. Whoosh! Black fog floated up from the bottom of the abyss. Then, suddenly, a cold wind blew, bringing with it a bone-chilling coldness. Something is coming up. Chapter 19:26. At the bottom of the abyss, the pitch-black fog continued to rise, bringing with it a trace of coldness. At the same time, it was accompanied by gusts of wind. A very terrifying aura rushed up from the bottom, as if a 10,000-year-old ghost was rushing up from below. Lin Tian naturally felt the aura. He felt something rushing up and immediately opened his divine eyes of illusion breaker. Then, he saw a skull rushing up. It was formed by pitch-black murderous aura, and it let out a mournful cry. Obviously, it was an evil spirit that was born from murderous aura. He raised his hand and directly shot out a ray of 5 heavenly lightning technique. It was accompanied by purple lightning and struck towards the evil spirit. With a swoosh, the evil spirit was not very strong. At most, it was comparable to a true god. In the blink of an eye, it was shattered by him. In this world, the strongest cultivator is only a true god. But here, an evil spirit that casually rushed out is actually at this level. Whooshing Crocodile was a little surprised. Lin Tian, of course, also thought of this. His gaze deepened as he looked at the abyss. This place was indeed not simple. He reminded Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu to be careful. With the 5 heavenly lightning technique protecting them, they continued to descend into the abyss. After that, more than 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye. After more than 2 hours, they landed at the bottom of the abyss. As far as the eye could see, there was another world at the bottom of the abyss. Gray mountain ranges were connected to each other. On the horizon, what entered their eyes was piles of skeletons. It was like a graveyard. Most importantly, among these skeletons, there were many intertwining dots of light. There were heavenly god and divine king auras flowing around them, causing the man and the two beasts to be shocked. What happened here? Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. At the bottom of the abyss, there were so many skeletons. There were even heavenly god and divine king level skeletons. Moreover, there were many of them. How did these powerhouses die in this place? Crack! Suddenly, a strange sound was heard. Not far away, a creature covered in blood spirits appeared. Its body was like a wolf, but it had 3 eyes. Its fangs were as long as chopsticks, and it was as black as a demon. It was biting a corpse arm that was intertwined with divine king aura. Its 3 eyes were red, white, and black. It stared at the man and the 2 beasts from afar. The man and the 2 beasts were shocked, and their scalps went numb. Corpse-devouring beast. Whooshing Crocodile trembled. Lin Tianzi was even more direct. He enveloped the 5 elemental crocodile and little alpha primordium with his golden divine light before turning around and running away. Corpse-devouring beasts specialized in eating corpses and ghosts. They loved fresh flesh and blood. They were definitely ferocious beasts of death. They had seen them more than once and had even killed 1 or 2. However, the corpse-devouring beast in this place made their hearts palpitate. The corpse-devouring beast's death aura was too thick, as if it could annihilate everything. It was like a peak divine emperor. The corpse-devouring beast's body was not big. Its three eyes stared at Lin Tian and the others. It grinned like a human, and yellow saliva flowed out of its mouth. It continued to bite the human arm that was intertwined with Divine King Aura while chasing after the man and the two beasts. It was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it had crossed a long distance and appeared behind Lin Tian and the others. Oh my God! Whooshing crocodile's scales stood on end. Yeah! Little Taichu shrunk its neck. It was frightened by the death aura around the corpse-devouring beast. It was too scary. Lin Tian also felt his heart palpitate. However, he did not run away. The immortal Emperor Pagoda rushed out of his body with the power of thunder and slammed into the corpse-devouring beast. The corpse-devouring beast pounced over. It was not very intelligent. It collided with the immortal Emperor Pagoda and was sent flying with a bang. However, it only flew for a few hundred feet before it stabilized its body. Then, it pounced again at an even faster speed. Lin Tianyi fled with the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu. At the same time, he controlled the immortal Emperor Pagoda with the weapon control art to attack the corpse-devouring beast. For a while, the immortal Emperor Pagoda sent the corpse-devouring beast flying again and again. However, even though the corpse-devouring beast was sent flying again and again, it was not injured at all. Roar! After being sent flying again and again, the corpse-devouring beast was enraged. It let out a fierce roar. Immediately, under the abyss, a surging corpse aura condensed and turned into a wave of death. It drowned the two beasts. The wave of death was dozens of feet high and looked down on everything. Even someone as strong as Lin Tian felt his scalp go numb. If he was really drowned, he would be severely injured even if he did not die. It might even cause his life essence to be contaminated by the corpse aura. Lin Tian immediately took out the divine Tao reincarnation diagram and blocked it with the immortal Emperor Pagoda. He ran away as fast as he could. Soon, a cave appeared in front of them. The corpses around it were even denser, and there were many cobwebs around it. When they reached here, the corpse-devouring beast suddenly stopped in its tracks. There was obvious fear in its eyes. It's afraid of that cave? Whooshing crocodile was shocked. Lin Tian could naturally see that the corpse-devouring beast behind them was afraid of that cave. The corpse-devouring beast looked at the cave, and then looked at Lin Tian and the others. It looked at the cave again, paused, and then slowly approached. Obviously, although it was afraid of the cave, it did not want to miss out on fresh food like Lin Tian, Whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu. Lin Tian, Whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu all retreated towards the cave. They retreated very slowly, at the same speed as the corpse-devouring beast. If a corpse-devouring beast as strong as a godly emperor was afraid of it, they all knew that the cave was not simple. It should be very dangerous, and they did not want to go near it. However, since the corpse-devouring beast was coming, they had no choice but to move towards the cave. Roar! Seeing them move in the direction of the cave, the three eyes of the corpse-devouring beast were filled with anger. As it slowly approached the group, it let out a low roar, as if it was warning Lin Tian and the others not to approach the cave. Go away. We won't go to the cave. Whooshing crocodile opened its mouth and communicated with the corpse-devouring beast. The corpse-devouring beast seemed to have heard his words and let out a low roar, accompanied by a terrifying aura of death. It vigilantly looked at the cave and suddenly sped up, turning into a ray of death light as it charged towards Lin Tian and the others. Obviously, it wanted to devour Lin Tianyi and the others before Lin Tian and the others entered the cave. So fast! Whooshing crocodile was shocked. Lin Tianyi had been on guard against the corpse-devouring beast. Seeing that it suddenly sped up, he also sped up. The five thunder sky-shaking incantation combined with the yin and yang steps enveloped Whooshing crocodile and little Taichu and moved towards the cave to avoid the corpse-devouring beast's surprise attack. Roar! The corpse-devouring beast growled again, and the anger in its three eyes was even stronger. It continued to pounce on the two beasts. Lin Tian gritted his teeth. This corpse-devouring beast was really chasing after them. He had no choice but to look at the strange cave. Although he guessed that it was very dangerous inside, he still rushed into the cave as fast as he could because there was no other way. If he didn't rush into the cave, he would be directly devoured by the corpse-devouring beast. With a swoosh, he was very fast at this time and rushed into the strange cave. The corpse-devouring beast was shocked and angry. Its eyes were filled with fierceness, and it stopped in its tracks. Roar! It growled again and bared its teeth at Lin Tian, showing its fierceness. Clatter! At this moment, the sound of iron chains colliding rang out in the cave. It was very clear and came out. The corpse-devouring beast immediately had goosebumps all over its body. Its eyes, which were filled with fierceness before, were now filled with fear. Then it turned around and ran, escaping far away from this place in an instant. Chapter 1927. Lin Tianyi and the others naturally heard the clanking of the chains, but they didn't feel any fear. They didn't expect that the corpse-devouring beast, which was comparable to a divine emperor, would suddenly be so scared that it abandoned them and ran away. Let's leave too, Lin Tian said. Although he didn't feel any danger from the clanking of the chains and didn't know why the corpse-devouring beast was so scared, he believed that there must be a reason. He was sure that this cave was not a simple place. Now that the corpse-devouring beast that could threaten them had disappeared, there was no need for them to stay here any longer. Go, 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 Whooshing Crocodile said. He had the same idea as Lin Tian. Immediately, they walked out of the cave and went into the distance. However, in the next instant, Lin Tian's expression suddenly changed. He abruptly stopped and tilted his head to look into the cave. Just a moment ago, the divine sword in his sea of consciousness moved again. Strands of seven-colored light spread out and pointed directly into the cave. The sword's soul fragment under the abyss is in this cave. He was slightly shocked. Whooshing Crocodile saw his strange expression and asked, "What's wrong?" Little Taichu also stopped and looked at Lin Tian. "The thing I'm looking for should be in the cave." Lin Tiandao naturally wouldn't hide it. Whooshing Crocodile immediately stared at him and then became speechless. Now, they had to go in even if they didn't want to. Follow me carefully, Lin Tiandao. This cave was not simple and was very dangerous. However, the sword soul fragment might be in there, so he had to go. He called out to Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu. Then, he activated the Dragon Burial Scripture and the Heart Sutra of Sun at the same time and slowly walked into the cave. The cave was very spacious. It was 5 zhang wide and 10 zhang tall. The man and the two beasts walked deeper into the cave. Along the way, corpses appeared in their vision, one after another. They were all very powerful. Even the weakest one was at the God King realm. What is in the deepest part of this cave? So many experts have died. This is simply Whooshing Crocodile's heart palpitated. Lin Tian was also shocked, and he became even more vigilant. Strand after strand of dragon patterns spread out and interweaved in all directions. He had Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu follow behind him as they slowly moved forward. Then, as they went deeper into the cave, the number of corpses on the ground increased, and the aura became even more terrifying. Towards the end, they even saw 2 God Emperor-level corpses. Both of them had already been torn into pieces and were beyond recognition. Be careful. If you feel that something is wrong, retreat at any time, Lin Tian said in a deep voice. This mountain cave was truly frightening. Who would have thought that even the corpse of a God Emperor would appear? Furthermore, it was a dismembered corpse. He appeared to be even more cautious, and his pace was even slower as he continued to head into the cave. Walala! The sound of metal chains colliding rang out again, coming from the depths of the cave. This time, it was louder than before. When this sound rang out, the man and the two beasts could not help but stop. After all, this sound had even scared away the sky-devouring beast, which was comparable to a God Emperor-level expert. Now that it had suddenly appeared again, they were subconsciously shocked. Speaking of which, there doesn't seem to be any terrifying fluctuations in this sound. What exactly is that sky-devouring beast afraid of? Whooshing Crocodile could not figure it out. However, it was precisely because of this that the sky-devouring beast was even more terrified when it heard this sound. Lin Tian was also thinking about it, but he could not figure it out either. He said, "No matter what, be careful. It would never be wrong to be more careful." After saying that, he continued to lead Whooshing Crocodile and little Taichu into the cave. Walala! The sound of metal chains colliding rang out again. This time, the man and the two beasts heard it, but they did not stop. Instead, they appeared to be even more cautious. They carefully looked around and continued to head into the cave. In the blink of an eye, they had walked for more than 2 hours. The space in front of them suddenly became spacious and gave off a bright light. The seven-colored light surged from the front. The group of people turned a corner and saw a flat area with a radius of about 100 feet in front of them. A fist-sized seven-colored light was suspended in midair, surrounded by chains made of light. It was completely formed by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. From time to time, the chains would collide with each other, making clanking sounds. "This is that thing again?" Whooshing Crocodile opened its eyes wide when it saw the seven-colored light again. Then, it looked at the chains made of light around the seven-colored light. When it heard the sound of the chains colliding with each other, its eyes opened even wider. Is this where the sound of the chains came from? These light chains are clearly the materialization of spiritual chi. Squeak! Even little Taichu opened its eyes wide. It did not expect that the sound of the chains would come from this. Lin Tian was naturally moved. His gaze fell on the seven-colored light in the center. He clearly felt that this was the sword's soul fragment. Then, he understood the chains made of light around the sword's soul fragment. The sword's soul fragment had absorbed too much spiritual chi of heaven and earth, causing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to condense into substantial chains around the sword's soul fragment. These chains were completely made of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Moreover, they could condense into substantial spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The value was astonishing. That corpse-devouring beast came to this cave, saw the sword's soul fragment, and was injured at the same time. His heart moved, and he made such a guess. It was not afraid of the sound of the chains. After hearing the sound of the chains, it thought of the sword's soul fragment in the cave, so it ran away. Previously, it was afraid of this cave because of the sword's soul fragment in the cave. The sword's soul fragment itself was mixed with a holy, majestic, and fierce aura. If evil spirits and monsters approached it, they would definitely be injured. The corpse-devouring beast was a ferocious beast of death. It was extremely evil. Once such a ferocious beast approached the sword's soul fragment, it would be suppressed by the light of the sword's soul fragment. Even if it did not die, it would lose a layer of skin. After that, he thought of another question. There were corpses everywhere in the abyss, and they were not weak when they were alive. Especially in this cave, there were more and more corpses. Why was this so? Could it be that these people found the sword's soul fragment and came to fight for it, and then they all died here? He guessed. He stood in the same place and paused. Although he was not sure, he felt that the possibility was very high. Then he did not think about it anymore. He used his divine sense to scan the surroundings. After finding no danger, he walked forward and soon came to the sword's soul fragment. Chapter 1928. As soon as the sword's soul fragment entered his body, Lin Tian immediately felt his body tremble. This was because after the sword's soul fragment entered his body, the materialized spiritual energy that had condensed into chains also entered his body. He immediately felt an extremely vast spiritual energy. His flesh, blood, tendons, and bones all felt intense pain, as if they were about to explode from this boundless spiritual energy. This shocked him. Although he had sensed that these materialized spiritual energy chains were very shocking, he did not expect them to be so shocking. He realized that he had severely underestimated the value of these materialized spiritual energy chains. With such materialized spiritual energy, if he refined all of them, he could almost reach the peak of the Divine King stage. At that moment, he was a little happy. He directly activated the Sun Heart Sutra to the limit and began to quickly refine this spiritual energy. Buzz! Suddenly, a bright light intertwined outside his body. Moreover, the Tao ray also appeared. At the same time, the sword's soul fragment entered the divine sword at the bottom of his sea of consciousness. Just like before, strands of seven-colored sword's soul light overflowed. It was also wrapped in thick divine power and integrated into every corner of his body, as if it was a gift. Immediately, the divine light emitted from his body became even brighter and more shocking. It completely illuminated the surroundings. Then, it was also at this time that he saw fragmented scenes in his sea of consciousness one after another. He saw densely packed cultivators fighting, blood dyeing the void, falling from the heavens one after another. Then, he saw a vicious beast of death sent flying by seven-colored radiance. This caused him to be moved. As expected, he muttered to himself as he refined the materialized spiritual energy and the seven-colored sword soul light in his body. The fragmented images that suddenly appeared in his sea of consciousness must have been recorded by the sword soul fragment. Just as he had guessed before, the corpses in this abyss were indeed the sword soul fragments that had discovered this place. They came to fight for it and died one after another. As for the corpse-devouring beast, it was also injured by the sword's soul fragment that it began to fear this cave. After muttering to himself, he did not think anymore. He activated the Sun Heart Sutra even faster to refine the spiritual energy in his body even faster. Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu were on both sides of the cave. They carefully guarded the surroundings and guarded him. Dense spirit chi surged from all directions amidst the continuous mountain range. 6 figures resided in this mountain range. Each of them was a certain distance away from each other. Their bodies were surrounded by different radiances. Their auras were somewhat weak, and they had obvious injuries on their bodies. At this moment, they were guiding the surrounding spiritual energy to heal their injuries. Damn it! The 6 of them were Supreme God King of Darkness, Supreme God King of Fallen Soul, Supreme God King of East Pride, Supreme God King of Black Flames, Supreme God King of Blue Firmament, and Supreme God King of Thousand Slaughter. They had been severely injured by Lin Tian and had yet to fully recover. Chua! All of a sudden, the void rumbled slightly. A middle-aged man appeared here, his body surrounded by an extremely intimidating aura. The Divine King of Darkness and the rest were alerted. They raised their heads to take a look before regaining their composure. When they saw who it was, the expressions of the 6 of them turned cold and gloomy. Destruction, you sure are carefree, God King Thousand Slaughter said. The 7 of them were ordered to descend to the lower world to suppress Lin Tian and bring him back to the heaven of nothingness world. However, before this, Supreme God King of Destruction had yet to arrive and was minding his own business. He and the other 5 Supreme Gods were somewhat displeased. Supreme God King of Destruction looked at Supreme God King of Darkness and the rest who were recuperating. He could not help but be moved. All of you are injured? His eyes narrowed, and there was a tinge of surprise. Previously, he had sensed Lin Tian's aura. However, as he was searching for an ancient relic, he did not rush over. After that, the delay was much longer than he had expected. At this moment, he had followed the aura of the 6 of them and was prepared to attack together with the 6 of them. However, he did not expect the 6 of them to be severely injured. Could it be that they were? He instantly guessed the reason. Could it be that the 6 of them had sensed Lin Tian's aura and went to attack him, only to be severely injured by the human? Supreme God King of Thousand Slaughter harumphed coldly, and his expression became even more ghastly. That human is not simple, Supreme God King of Darkness said in a deep voice. Supreme God King of Destruction was truly moved. Hearing what Supreme God King of Darkness said, it was enough to prove that his guess was correct. This shocked him. Supreme God King of Darkness and the rest were not weaker than him. Even with the 6 of them working together, they were still injured by the human that they were ordered to suppress. Before they descended to the lower world, they had already received some information. The humans seemed to be at the level of an early-stage Supreme God, while Supreme God King Thousand Slaughter and the rest were at the peak of the Supreme God realm. Under the situation where there was such a huge difference between their realms, the six of them had still lost despite working together. It was hard for him to imagine. In fact, even if you were here previously, the seven of us might not have been able to suppress and take him away with absolute confidence. This is a little troublesome. Supreme God King of East AO glanced at Supreme God King of Destruction and said in a deep voice. At the same time, he continued to recuperate from his injuries as light lingered around his body. Although I do not want to admit that an ant from the lower world can be so strong, this is the truth. Supreme God King of Darkness said coldly. Supreme God King Thousand Slaughter and the rest did not say anything. However, their eyes narrowed slightly. It was obvious that they agreed with Supreme God King of East AO's words. Supreme God King of Destruction was shocked again. He did not expect the six of them to think so. The seven Supreme God Kings were known as the Supreme God Realm in the heaven of Void World. Each of them had the ability to look down on the Supreme God Realm. However, Supreme God King Thousand Slaughter and the rest of the Supreme God Realm believed that even if the seven of them worked together, they might not be able to suppress an early-stage Supreme God King from the lower world. This shocked him even more. The human that they were ordered to suppress was so powerful. However, in the next moment, the shock in his eyes disappeared. He regained his calmness and revealed a cold smile. Perhaps that person is very strong. However, he is destined to be suppressed. As he said so, he waved his right hand slightly. A seal emerged from his body and immediately bloomed with boundless divine light. This is a divine royal-grade precious weapon. Divine King Qian too, and the others were visibly shaken. The six of them looked at Supreme God King of Destruction and were shocked. Supreme God King of Destruction actually had a divine royal-grade precious weapon? Supreme God King of Destruction smiled faintly and said, I got it from the ancient site. I also obtained a great shift divine talisman. He continued, in addition, the ancient ruins are very large, and there are other parts that are even more vast. It is very difficult for me to continue exploring with my strength alone. After I suppress that person, you all will follow me, and we will be able to find even more amazing divine objects. He was not the senior brother of the other six, and was not related by blood. However, they belonged to the same path sect and had a good relationship. Therefore, he did not hide anything from the six of them. Supreme God King Thousand Slaughter and the other five were excited when they heard this. All right, a divine royal-grade precious weapon should be enough to suppress that insect. After that, we will work together to explore the ancient site. Besides Supreme God King of Destruction, there are many good things on that insect. There is a divine weapon made from the Hong Meng Heavenly Crystal. After suppressing him, we will split the Hong Meng Heavenly Crystal and forge our own divine weapons. Supreme God King of Darkness and the rest spoke one after another. They were no longer unhappy that Supreme God King of Destruction had not arrived. Instead, they were happy. The ancient site that Supreme God King of Destruction had discovered was of great significance to them. At the bottom of the abyss, in the cave Weng, golden divine light surrounded Lin Tian's body and Dao radiance intertwined. His aura was getting stronger and his cultivation level was rising rapidly. I'm going to reach the middle stage of the Supreme God realm soon. Chapter 19:29. Not long after the seven-colored sword soul fragment entered Lin Tian's body, Lin Tian's cultivation was already close to the middle stage Divine King realm. This surprised the whooshing crocodile. This speed was just too fast. It was so fast that it was frightening. After all, Lin Tian was now in the Divine King realm. It was too difficult for him to advance a small level in this realm. It was far more difficult than the major realms below the Divine King realm. It was countless times more difficult. That solidified spiritual energy of heaven and earth is really, it muttered to itself. It guessed that it had something to do with the solidified spiritual energy chains. In fact, its guess wasn't wrong. At this moment, Lin Tian was circulating the Sun Heart Sutra at an extremely fast speed, refining the spirit chi chains in his body and the rainbow-colored sword's spirit radiance that seeped out from the sword's spirit fragment. The spiritual energy contained in the materialized spirit chi chains was just too dense, and it was much more beneficial to his cultivation than the rainbow-colored sword's spirit radiance that seeped out from the sword's spirit fragment. The two were completely incomparable. Of course, if one were to look at the root, although the solidified spiritual energy chains were shocking, they were actually born from the sword's soul fragment. It could be said that it was all thanks to the sword's soul fragment. Buzz! Golden light surrounded Lin Tian. The Heart Sutra of Sun circulated extremely quickly. The golden divine light outside Lin Tian's body became even more terrifying. Just like that, 6 hours passed in the blink of an eye. Boom! After 6 hours, a majestic force rushed out from Lin Tian's body, sweeping out waves of divine power. In 6 hours, he was refining the seven-colored sword's soul light in his body, while refining the solidified spiritual energy chains that entered his body. At this time, his cultivation broke through from the early stage Divine King realm to the middle stage Divine King realm. At this time, the seven-colored sword's soul light in his body had been completely refined. The sword soul fragment had completely merged with the divine sword and became stable. There was still a lot of the solidified spiritual energy chains left. Hence, he continued to refine the spiritual energy and cultivate. At the same time, during this process, he also used these spiritual chains as a supplement to stabilize his current cultivation base. For a moment, the golden divine light outside his body became denser. His essence, energy, and spirit rose rapidly. The Tao light also became denser. Just like that, 6 hours passed in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the aura around his body was much stronger than before. Then, he opened his eyes, just a little bit more to reach the pinnacle of the God King realm. He muttered to himself. In almost 14 hours, he had refined the materialized spirit chi chains and the seven-colored sword's spirit radiance from the sword's spirit fragments. His cultivation had reached the peak of the mid-God King realm. He was just a little bit away from reaching the peak God King realm. Moreover, because during this process, he was also using the solidified spiritual energy to temper his Taoist foundation, his current cultivation was very stable. He looked inside himself and found that the divine power in his body had become denser, his God soul had become more powerful, and his sea of consciousness had become vaster. At the same time, his flesh shell was much stronger than before, and his battle prowess had increased by a lot. Very good. A bright light flashed across his eyes. He was naturally delighted. After that, he issued a command with his will, causing the divine radiance and light of the Tao that coiled around his body to gradually disperse and be absorbed into his body. How many seven-colored light sources are there exactly? The whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu flashed over at this moment. They were very surprised by the appearance of another light source here. They had seen too many of these things. I can't explain it clearly. Lin Tian shook his head. He did not say much. He simply glanced at the mountain cave and then called the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu to leave. Since he had already obtained the sword's spirit fragments here, there was no need to stay here. They moved very quickly and walked out of the mountain cave in the blink of an eye. Outside the mountain cave, corpses were densely distributed. Blood was splattered everywhere. Being energy was very dense. Lin Tian already knew why these corpses were in this place, so he did not care. He called the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu to fly directly from this place and rise above the abyss. Around the abyss, black fog lingered, and the death energy was very dense. The corpse-devouring beast from before did not appear again. It was obvious that the sound of chains coming from the mountain cave had frightened it, so it did not approach this place after leaving. Therefore, it did not take long for the man and the two beasts to rise above the abyss and fly into the distance. In the blink of an eye, dozens of barren mountains were left behind. Boom! Suddenly, there was a roar in the void. A black light mixed with a destructive aura rushed from the distance at an extremely fast speed. Lin Tian naturally sensed it immediately. The golden divine radiance enveloped the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu and moved dozens of feet away to avoid the black light. Then, the void where they were just standing was directly annihilated. Which bastard? The whooshing crocodile cursed and looked in the direction of the black light. There, 7 middle-aged figures stood together. All of them were surrounded by the aura of divine kings, and their expressions were very cold. At the same time, Lin Tian naturally saw these 7 people. 6 of them were very familiar. They were Divine King Qin Tu, Divine King Dark Yu, Divine King Luo Han, Divine King Dong Ao, Divine King Lan Xiao, and Divine King He Yin. As for the other person, he did not know him, but it was enough to guess that he was an accomplice of Divine King Qin Tu and the others. I did not look for you, but you took the initiative to come to me. Were you not satisfied with being tortured before? He said calmly. As soon as these words came out, Divine King Qin Tu and the others immediately turned cold. They thought of the scene where they were at a disadvantage in Lin Tian's hands. Worm, don't be too proud. A temporary victory or defeat is nothing. The one who laughs in the end is the winner. Divine King Dark, you said coldly. Lin Tian sneered. These are the words that losers always say to hide their incompetence. Divine King Dark Yu's face turned even colder. He stared at Lin Tian with murderous intent in his eyes. Don't talk nonsense with him. Just suppress him. Divine King Qin Tu said, and looked at Divine King Destruction. Divine King Destruction had been sizing up Lin Tian since he appeared. He indeed felt that Lin Tian's aura was not weak. However, he still found it hard to believe that Divine King Qin Tu and the others were defeated by Lin Tian. Let me try first and see if his fighting strength is really that strong, he said. As an expert who was known as a supreme divine king in a macro world like the Heaven of Nihility world, he was told that the other party was very strong when he came to suppress and capture a divine king from the lower domain. With the fighting strength of the 7 of them, it would be difficult to do so even if they worked together. He was unwilling to believe it and wanted to try it himself. Chapter 1930. The destructive light river came crashing down with shocking divine might. It was not something an ordinary peak divine king could possess. It was extremely shocking. In the blink of an eye, the destructive light river came crashing down on Lin Tian's head. It even carried chains of laws. As the destructive light river came crashing down, Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly in the wind. However, his expression did not change at all. So he said. As he spoke, his actions were very simple. He raised his hand and sent out a slap. It carried strands of lightning as it directly lashed out. With a swoosh, the destructive light river came crashing down and was instantly shattered by his palm. Compared to a few days ago, his battle prowess has increased by so much. How insane! Whooshing crocodile muttered softly. It could clearly sense how terrifying the destructive light river was. However, Lin Tian shattered it with a single slap. At the same time, God King Destruction was shocked. God King Dark Yu and the others were shocked. Mid-Divine King. He's about to reach peak Divine King. God King Qin Tu's eyes narrowed. Lin Tian's palm was not purely physical strength. It was mixed with divine power. His cultivation level was revealed, which shocked him. Lin Tian was only an early Divine King a few days ago. However, in just a few days, he was about to reach peak Divine King. How could he improve so quickly? After God King Destruction was shocked, he could tell that Lin Tian was indeed very strong. However, he did not stop there. He joined forces with the other 6. Instead, he snorted coldly and attacked again. This time, he decisively used his Divine Way law. At the same time, he used the phenomenon in his Sea of Consciousness and his innate bloodline ability. He directly displayed his peak battle prowess. The destructive light wave came crashing down on Lin Tian again. His bloodline was the destruction bloodline. In terms of pure offensive power, He could be considered the strongest and fiercest of the 7 divine kings. At this time, when he activated his divine Tao law, the strange phenomenon in his sea of consciousness, and his innate divine ability at the same time, the wave of destruction after the fusion was truly terrifying. Under such a wave of destruction, the void in space in all directions couldn't help but produce black holes that devoured everything. Lin Tianwei squinted his eyes. He had to admit that this attack was very powerful and terrifying. If it were him who was still at the early Divine King realm a few days ago, it would take him a lot of effort to block this attack, and he would be injured. However, the present couldn't be compared with the past. Now he was almost at the peak of the Divine King realm. Buzz! Behind him, divine splendor surged. The reincarnation diagram immediately rose, turning into a streak of divine splendor that directly pressed forward. With a sizzling sound, the overwhelming divine might that the godly king of destruction had unleashed was instantly crushed by the reincarnation diagram. At the same time, the reincarnation diagram did not slow down at all. It released a ripple of divine light that pressed down on the godly king of destruction like water ripples. The godly king of destruction's protective divine splendor was directly shattered. He was sent flying dozens of feet away. His divine body instantly became tattered and blood splattered all over the void. It was bright red and dazzling. He is indeed very powerful. After stabilizing himself in the distance, the godly king of destruction's face turned ugly. He had already unleashed his strongest combat power, but it was so easily shattered and injured by Lin Tianwei. This was even more powerful than what the godly king of darkness and the others had mentioned. The godly king of darkness and the others were moved. Lin Tianwei's cultivation had improved a lot, and his combat power had become much stronger as well. Compared to a few days ago, there was almost a qualitative change. Lin Tianwei looked at the godly king of destruction, then at the godly king of thousand slaughter and the other 5. His expression was calm as he strode toward the 7 of them. He did not say anything, but his intention was obvious. Naturally, he wanted to kill all 7 of them. As he walked toward them, the faces of the 7 darkened. Lin Tianwei's calmness made them extremely uncomfortable. It was as if he was silently looking down on the 7 of them. Unleash the weapon, suppress him, and take him away. The godly king of darkness looked at the godly king of destruction and said coldly. At the same time, the godly king of thousand slaughter, the godly king of east pride, the godly king of blue firmament, the godly king of fallen soul, and the godly king of black flames all said the same thing. The godly king of destruction nodded. His eyes were cold as they fell on Lin Tianwei. You are indeed very powerful. However, you will still be suppressed in the end. His voice was cold. In the next moment, a seal directly floated out from his body. As soon as it appeared, it bloomed with boundless divine radiance, causing the air in this space to stop flowing. Because of the appearance of this seal, it became silent. Lin Tianwei immediately stopped in his tracks. A strange look flashed across his eyes. At the same time, the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu turned pale. Divine royal weapon. The whooshing crocodile could not help but tremble. The pressure that the seal gave off was so strong that it made its divine soul feel cold. As soon as the seal appeared, it floated above the godly king of destruction's head. It gave off a shocking glow as the divine royal weapon's pressure spread out. I'll give you a chance. Destroy your cultivation and kneel down. Follow us back to the heaven realm obediently. That way, you will suffer less. The godly king of destruction looked at Lin Tianwei and said indifferently. With the appearance of the divine royal weapon, he had a superior attitude, as if he was an ancient king looking down on the world. At the same time, the godly king of darkness and the others' eyes turned cold. They looked at Lin Tianwei as if they were looking at a prisoner. Lin Tianwei stood in place and faced the divine royal weapon that the godly king of destruction had summoned. He immediately felt the threat of death and a sense of helplessness. The divine royal weapon was simply too powerful. Even though he was a reincarnated body and was about to reach the peak of the Divine King realm, he still could not withstand such a weapon. Facing it head-on would only result in death. However, there was no change in his expression. "What you're relying on is meaningless," he said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, a seven-colored brilliance surged out from his body. Then, the seven-colored divine sword rushed out from between his eyebrows and floated above his head. It immediately emitted a supreme, divine brilliance that suppressed the world. It was majestic, domineering, and fierce. In that instant, winds and clouds surged in this place. The heavens changed color as a result, producing streaks of large cracks. "This is—" Whooshing Crocodile was shocked and then overjoyed. Lin Tianwei had summoned the divine sword at this time. Little Taichu also widened his eyes. He knew how terrifying the divine sword in Lin Tianwei's body was. It could almost cut through everything. At the same time, the godly king of destruction's expression changed. He clearly felt how terrifying the divine sword that Lin Tianwei summoned was. The divine royal weapon above his head was trembling as if it had its own consciousness. It seemed to be wailing. The godly kings of Thousand Slaughter, Darkness, Luo Han, Eastern Pride, He Yin, and Lan Shao were all shocked. He has such a divine weapon? Impossible. If he had it, why didn't he summon it when he was fighting with us? If he had summoned it then, why did he have to fight with us so fiercely? If he had summoned it, we wouldn't have been able to escape. He must have obtained some great opportunity recently and forged it not long ago. Even his cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds in a very short time. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.